Chapter 266. Even after she went berserk, Marina was unable to hit him at least once. While dodging and evading her punches, the two of them reached the ship's front corner. Seeing him cornered, she grinned. "Let's end this little dance, shall we?" Michael decided to end this little fight after successfully gauging her strength. Death range. He knew he couldn't defeat her with just his raw strength. Hence, he cast the death range to enhance his strength. The moment he used the spell, the entire ship grew darker regardless of the lantern lights. Marina's eyes went wide as she realized that he just used magic. The overwhelming joy and shock prevented her muscles from moving. Boom. Michael punched her right in the abdomen with enough force to send her flying from one end of the ship to another. She literally traveled in the air, breaking all the poles in the ship before hitting the wall beside the captain's cabin door. "Captain! Captain Marina!" The crew members and Packard screamed. Their bodies shuddered in shock as they stared at Marina's body with wide eyes. "Dark. Dark. Lord," the words barely escaped her mouth. Despite the blood flowing out of her mouth, she was smiling. Her eyes contained a tint of delight. The others might haven't heard the words she spoke, but Michael did. It completely took him by surprise. He was about to take a step forward when he noticed something glowing on her chest. "The system has finished scanning. The system has found a radioactive medallion on her chest. It doesn't harm her body as a radioactive material would do on Earth, but this medallion strengthens her body from the molecular level." He didn't need help finding the medallion. It was glowing in bright jade color on her chest. Locking his eyes on the medallion, he activated the lightning dash to reach her in a blink of an eye. "Captain!" "Wind blast!" The pirates rushed at Michael when he reached Maria as they thought he's going to kill her. They tried to protect Maria, but the wind blast blasted some of them into the water, while the others to every corner of the ship. He squatted down before Marina to take a closer look at the medallion. The medallion on her neck was the size of a coin. There was no etching or designs could be seen on the surface except for one letter, L. First, he used it to spread the name of Lucifer by leaving an L mark on the crime scenes. Then he realized the Order of the Death has been using the symbol way before he was even born, as the symbol was everywhere in the abyssal, and now he saw the same symbol once again on the medallion. "Dark Lord. It's you. Where did you get this?" She tried to answer, yet the pain in her abdomen prevented her from speaking. He willed the system to give him a healing potion from the system storage. "Drink this." Michael poured the healing potion into her mouth, not gently though, as he needed answers quicker. Almost half of the potion trickled out of her mouth. Considering the potion was 90% pure, her pain began to dissipate in a few seconds. She started to breathe as normal. Soon, she pulled herself up to kneel before him. Michael stood up, trying not to show the confusion in his heart on his face. "Order of the Death, Dark Lord. This medallion had been passed on to us from our ancestors." "Your ancestors served the Order?" She still kept her head lower without looking directly into his eyes. "Yes, Dark Lord. We've been waiting for you to lead us. We never stopped searching for you. If I hadn't found you, my kin would have continued the search." He was pretty confused about the sudden turn of events. The last thing he expected was to find a descendant of someone who served the Order of the Death, the same order that apparently worshipped him as a god. "Dark Lord, please take this. My father said this will prove our loyalty to you." She presented him with the medallion after snatching it from her neck. He took the medallion from her hand expecting some kind of change in the coin, but on the contrary, he never felt anything except the coin glowed brighter in his hand. Michael willed the system to create an invisible barrier around them for 1,000 badass points so none would hear their conversation. "I, Maxine Kane, swear my loyalty to our god, the Dark Lord. From this day onwards, am yours to command. Does the host wish to accept Maxine Kane as your subordinate?" The system prompted him when he finished taking her oath. Yes, he wanted to check her loyalty level. Although he never sensed any treachery vibe from her, he still wanted to make sure this wasn't a trap created by those pesky old guardians. Subordinate. Maxine Kane cultivation level. Arch sensing stage level 2. Cannot cast spells due to geological restrictions. Race. Human status. Healthy trait. Warrior loyalty towards the host. 95%. It is true. There was no better proof than the system's loyalty meter to prove Maxine's loyalty to him. Her loyalty also showed him that what she said about her ancestors is also true. If he could, he really wanted to meet those people who worshipped him as God and searched for him for thousands of years. He wondered what made them devote themselves to him. "Serve me well, Maxine." He placed his hands on her shoulders, helping her stand up. Her eyes brimmed with joy as tears of joy already began to flow out. She looked at him as a devotee would look like her God. He could tell that if he asked her to kill herself, she would without a second thought. The pirates on the other hand were confused as hell, witnessing their captain bending her knee to Michael. After getting blasted by Michael, no one dared to utter a word and make a move. The question of how he used magic made the pirates feel dizzy. "How long have you been searching for me?" "Ever since I was old enough to walk, Dark Lord. My father always said that the Dark Lord will lead this world to a better age." "Your father is correct. Where is he now?" The smile on her face gradually faded away. "He died of old age, Dark Lord," he sighed inside. If the old man was still alive, he could have answered some of his questions about the Order and their secrets. Still, Michael was glad that he found another loyal subordinate. "Do you know anyone else from the Order?" If Maxine, a descendant of the Order, was alive and still loyal to him, he wanted to see if there are more descendants like her. "No, Dark Lord. My father said after the Supreme Guardian destroyed the Order, only a few survived and escaped. According to my father, those who escaped went dark. It was the right decision. Otherwise, the Guardians would have found them and finished what they started. However, if you're here, we cannot say for sure there are no other descendants alive. The only question is, do they know who they are? Even if he were to find them, he wouldn't force the descendants to serve him if they were unwilling. After all, he wasn't a slave master, and those descendants weren't his slaves. However, if there was a chance that those descendants were still searching for him like Maxine, he had to find them. He would rather have a few loyal subordinates than a bunch of unloyal powerful people as his subordinates. Although Maxine would not stand a chance against cultivators, he had the system to change that. If he couldn't make a southerner powerful enough to face a cultivator, he wouldn't have come to the southern continent, as there was no point in building an army that could be destroyed by a couple of cultivators. "I assume your father told you that you cannot serve two lords." "You're the only one I serve, Dark Lord. I was using Pirate Lord Corey's resources to locate you." "Did you search for me in the other continents too?" Yet again she shook her head. "We believe that only the Dark Lord could break the cultivation restriction and use magic inside the void line. My father always said it'd be easier to find you here than in any other continent." "Your father sounds like a great man." Michael genuinely praised her father. If they were to search for him anywhere but here, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. It was a different story in the southern continent, as her father believed. He was the only one who could use and make others use arch energy inside the void line. "I would like to meet Pirate Lord Corey. It'd be my honor to take you to Corey with me, Dark Lord. I just hope we didn't damage the ship too much." She scratched the back of her head with an embarrassed look on her face. "It's okay. We'll use my ship." She looked around to see any new ships. "Gibson, you can come out." Michael talked with Gibson through the earpiece. She was confused, wondering who he was talking to. Soon, Maxine felt a tremble under her feet as the sea around them rippled violently. Whoosh! Her eyes almost bulged out when a ship emerged from the sea suddenly before their eyes. Compared to the Silent Reaper, Maxine's ship looked tiny. The ship's look itself intimidated the pirates. Michael slowly ascended to the air. "Meet my ship, the Silent Reaper, Maxine." Chapter 267. "And don't call me Dark Lord. This is not the right time to take my mantle. Just call me Lord Lucifer." Hovering in the midair, Michael ordered Maxine. "Yes, Lord Lucifer." He didn't fly directly to the Silent Reaper, but stared at the shivering pirates on the deck. Packard's legs kept trembling. All of his senses were overwhelmed by pure fear. "Are they loyal to you or Corey?" "I give you my word, Lord Lucifer. They are loyal to me. No one else." Without a second thought, Maxine vouched for the pirates. "Except him, I presume." He glanced at Packard. As expected, Maxine nodded because Packard was not a pirate serving her, but another pirate captain who served Corey. "Kill him." "As you wish, Lord Lucifer." "No. No. Don't kill me." "Don't." Maxine's gaze sent a chill running through Packard's spine. He started to shiver frantically while walking backward. He kept walking until he tripped on a piece of wood. You should be proud to give your life to Lord Lucifer Packard. Accept your death with dignity. The pirates surrounded Packard, restricting him from retreating any further. Michael calmly watched the scene without interfering. He wanted to compare Maxine with the native citizens of the southern continent. Look, something's going over there. Who is that fatty? Shoo, do you want the captain to get more pissed off at us? Why isn't the captain making any moves? And where is the Dark Queen? Michael's crew began to chit-chat looking down at Maxine's ship. They were afraid of Michael noticing them, as they still haven't cleaned the ship yet. Still, they couldn't stop themselves from watching the entertainment. I hope you shitheads are sightseeing after cleaning the ship spotless. The Silent Reaper crew felt a chill when they suddenly heard Dark Queen's voice coming from behind. They slowly turned back to see her floating in the air above the captain's cabin. Heya worms, how's it going? Shorty came out of the captain's cabin with a bucket in his hand. He had no idea Gaia was floating above his head. I have a great idea. We should keep the door open, submerge into the sea and emerge again. Tada! Captain's cabin clean. Shorty laughed. The other pirates rolled their eyeballs up to signal Shorty, yet their efforts were in vain. Great fucking idea. Remind me to drown you next time to make you stink less. What the? Shorty's eyes went wide as he slowly turned back to see her floating in the air. He let out an embarrassed smile. No. Boom. Suddenly a screaming noise reverberated in the area, followed by a loud booming sound. Gaia moved forward while the pirates turned back again. What happened here? The Whitehead asked, looking at the broken poles as well as the broken wooden pieces lying on the ship's deck before them. Along with the destroyed objects, they noticed a headless body lying in a pool of blood. Who is she? Gaia saw a chubby woman standing in front of the headless body, wiping the blood off of her fist with her shirt. Maxine's pirates were too focused on Packard's body as they almost failed to notice Gaia floating beside Michael. A descendant of the Order, Gaia was genuinely surprised after hearing Michael's words. She scanned the plump woman from top to bottom. Did she have anything to prove herself? Instead of explaining, he showed Gaia the medallion. With a single glance at the coin, she recognized the symbol. Trust me, she's loyal. Why did she kill him? The silver head looked at the headless body with pity in its eyes. The other two heads, however, remained indifferent. Because you should always kill your enemies, no mercy. After killing Packard with a single punch, she turned back to see another figure in black armor floating in the sky. She could tell the person is a female, but unlike Lucifer, Maxine was unable to see her face as she wore a mask. Regardless of the mask, Maxine could feel the woman's gaze on her. Maxine's instincts told her that this person is just as powerful and dangerous as Lord Lucifer himself. Her father and his ancestors only told her about the Dark Lord, but not a single word about this woman. Tell your people to come to Giselle Kingdom. We'll go there in my ship. Considering the damage Maxine's ship took from the initial battle between her and Michael, he knew they can't keep up with the Silent Reaper or the other two ships. Therefore, he ordered Maxine to get aboard his ship. You heard Lord Lucifer. Fix the ship and move your asses to Giselle. Yes. Yes, Captain. The next moment, Gaia flicked her wrist as Maxine felt her body become lighter. She was taken aback by surprise looking at her feet moving up from the ground. I'm flying, she mumbled. In a few seconds, she reached high enough in the air where the pirates looked smaller. When she landed on Michael's ship, Maxine saw the crew gawking at her curiously, especially a short guy with a bucket. Captain, we just need a couple of more hours to clean your cabin. Gibson came to his side drenched in water and soapy bubbles. His white shirt turned brown thanks to the mess he cleaned in lower decks. Lord Lucifer, is this the Silent Reaper? The cursed ship? Yes, and not cursed anymore. Yet again the Dark Lord made her heart skip a beat. The Silent Reaper was a legend known only for a few people. They all thought the curse was unbreakable, yet here she was standing on the Silent Reaper with the Dark Lord. Her devotion towards the Dark Lord reached a new peak. She only wished her father was here to meet the Dark Lord. While they were on the deck, Michael saw Heimberg stepping out of the lower deck. He made his way towards Michael. Good, you're here. Follow me, Gaia. Heimberg and Maxine followed him behind into the captain's cabin while Shorty prayed that the captain doesn't get mad at him for doing a half-assed job of cleaning the cabin. When Michael entered the cabin, it wasn't as stinky as before, and the cabin looked somewhat cleaner. Ignoring the room's hygiene for a moment, Michael walked towards the oak table in the center. Heimberg, tell me about Giselle. According to Heimberg, the kingdom of Giselle was a huge country with a population of almost 25,000, including races other than humans. Bordered between a marsh to the north, a wild sea to the south, a mountain range to the east, and a marsh to the west, the kingdom of Giselle was mainly living off woodcrafting, weaponsmithing, and wine brewing. Giselle itself was mainly covered in mountains and has a warm climate, which has led to a freely spread population, despite the number of people, which meant most of them lived in small villages and islands. The kingdom's landscape was delicate. Green, open fields, sapphire lakes, and mellow rivers were just a sliver of the magnificence Giselle has to offer, which was why the country is cherished among foreigners. Heimberg told them that the citizens of Giselle, mainly the nobles, were selfish towards foreigners and tended to welcome them with irritation. Apparently, they were thinking foreigners could inhibit the country's well-being. Giselle had moderate laws and law enforcement, which was fairly normal. The people were troubled due to the undead island, and they had been asking the Senate to do something permanent. Giselle's army contained 3,000 soldiers, including cavalry armed with bombs, shields, and swords. The infantry was also armed with various types of bombs such as smoke bombs, flash bombs. Other than the cavalry and infantry, Heimberg mentioned that the kingdom has two elite units, archers and Spartans. The archers were equipped with various types of arrows as well as different types of bows for different types of situations. This piqued Gaia's curiosity. She wanted to see what kind of bow they were using. The Spartans, on the other hand, were highly trained killing machines, according to Heimberg. The kingdom only had 250 Spartans, and they would only enter the battlefield as the last resort. The ranks were also filled with many other regiments, including allied soldiers, as well as slave soldiers, including various charging units, units of war animals, several defensive units, and many medical units. What about the naval army? How many warships do they have? 10 warships. Only 10? Michael was confused. Lord Lucifer, this is because of the agreement between the senates and the pirate lords. Seeing Michael's confused look, Maxine explained. The agreement is a short one, to be honest. If a kingdom built more than 10 warships, the pirate lords view it as a sign of provocation, and sent their fleet to plunder their cities until the kingdom submits. So you're saying the pirate lords can take over any kingdom with its naval power? Gaia asked. No, unless a kingdom gives a reason such as building more than 10 warships, the pirate lords don't interfere with a kingdom's business. That's why the kingdoms in the southern continent leave the pirates alone, so they will do the same in return. The merchant ships and some poor bastards are just fish food to keep the shark away from their borders. Besides, some kingdoms have armies powerful enough to take on a pirate lord. No one likes war, so there wasn't one in many decades. They all agreed with Maxine, although Michael could tell the peace between the kingdoms and the pirates was a delicate one. There will be one soon, Gaia shrugged, playing with the Hydra in her hand. Chapter 268. Alright, the two of you should stay outside for the night. Only Heimberg understood the meaning of his words, considering he spent some time in the guest room on the lower deck. Heimberg saw nicer prisons than their guest room. He almost wished he received a knockout drug to lose consciousness like Logan and Jonah. Make yourself at home, Maxine. I'm home, Lord Lucifer. Her eyes welled up again. Even Gaia, who didn't have the system to show Maxine as loyalty level, could see the devotion in her eyes. With Maxine, they took the first step in building a loyal army, a powerful loyal army. After Maxine exited the room, Michael looked around at his empty room. There were still some dust spots, cobwebs, and dirt on the walls as well as the floor, especially on the places where the book racks and statues were before. You know, Gaia slowly walked towards him, speaking in a husky voice. I wanted to show you something. She wrapped her hand around his chest. He could feel her hot breath near his ear. I have a bad feeling about this, the whitehead complained. When Michael turned to face her, they were stuck between them. Luckily for the Hydra, Gaia put them on the table beside her before wrapping her both arms around Michael's neck. Why don't we take your mask off? He pulled Gaia closer by her waist. His intentions were obvious at this point. HMKM, she gently shook her head, while closing his lips with her fingers. Come with me, she wiggled herself out of his hold. Then she scooped off the hydra from the table before walking towards the door as Michael followed her behind. When he opened the door, the first person standing outside was Gibson with a couple of pirates behind him. Maxine was lying on the ship's far end with the hat covering her face. By the looks of it, she seemed deep in sleep. I want my room spotless when I come back, as he said. He took off from the ship to the sky with Gaia. Looking at them fly gives me chills every time. Shorty looked up at them disappearing into the clouds. Until the pirates met Michael, they wished nothing but freedom from the curse. Now after witnessing the cools they did, many including Shorty wanted to become cultivators. They would have asked them if it wasn't for Gibson. The old man warned them that if they want to become cultivators, they should first quit drinking like animals. He also said the captain will ask you to quit drinking first before starting training them. For many pirates, quitting drinking was a deal breaker. But not for Shorty. Where are you taking me? Michael broke his silence after flying higher and higher into the sky. Be patient, dear, she chuckled. Her focus was on flying higher. She could see the clouds getting closer and closer. While leading Michael to her destination, she failed to notice him slowing down. I like the view from here. Michael's gaze was fixed on Gaia's body. The beautiful moon or the sparkling stars didn't get his attention as much as she got. As far as he was concerned, he would be happier staring at her perfect hourglass structure than appreciating nature's beauty. Since he was too deeply focused on her body, he failed to notice the hydra climbing on her body to reach her shoulders. He's checking out your butt. Not only the white head betrayed him, but it also stuck its tongue out to tease him. What? Gaia immediately turned back to see his eyes were on her instead of the beautiful night sky. When he first told her that he's liking the view, she really thought he was appreciating the night sky. Only now she realized that he was checking out her instead of enjoying what nature has to offer. Hey, don't blame me. It was you who chose to fly before me. He didn't act like he wasn't checking her out. Instead, he just spoke his mind. After all, they had both accepted each other as their better halves. Staring at each other like they were in a Mexican standoff, they flew past the clouds which spread across the blue sky like a blanket of snow. The moment they flew through the snow-like clouds, the vibrant light of the moon drew both their gazes like a magnet. Michael's jaw almost dropped, looking at the view in front of him. He felt like he was inside a painting. Millions of sparkling stars decorated the bluish sky like gems. The moonlight shone platinum gold amid the starlight heaven. The last couple of weeks were tense, especially to Michael. When he first came to this world, his goal was to use the system to get rich and powerful enough to enjoy his life to the fullest. Never in a million years had he thought someone put him in this world to save it. But he wasn't going to change into a complete good guy on a savior drug. No matter what, he wouldn't change his plans of ruling this world from the shadows, getting filthy rich, and living a long, long life enjoying everything this world has to offer. The moonlight calmed his mind by making him forget everything for a moment. Wow, this is even the Hydra was at a loss of words in front of Mother Nature's beauty. Come here, she looked divine in the moonlight. He just pulled her closer before locking his lips with hers. She ran her fingers through his shoulder-length hair, pulling him closer and closer. Right at this moment, he didn't want anything else other than a lover's embrace. He savored her lips as well as this moment as much as he could. Don't mind us, we just close our eyes. Meanwhile, back on the Elon continent, 6 elderly figures were seated around a round table. They looked like they were in their late exiting or early 70s. Have the Guardians or the church found the reason for what happened? One of the elderly people who was a man asked the others. They are still investigating. Apparently, only Elon and Azair are experiencing this issue. My contact in the Guardians said it's not permanent. That's good news. The tournament is in 3 weeks and we have yet to find a way to see someone's cultivation level. An old woman rubbed her temples. The wrinkles on her forehead increased due to recent complications. Well, until now, you just focus on the arch energy radiation coming from someone to know their cultivation level. Who would have known that something would mask the radiation suddenly? Not only these old people who were responsible for organizing the 2 championship tournaments, but no one in the world knew that it was Michael who started this mess. When the hostile Hydra became mad, it let out a pulse that was hiding a cultivator's energy radiation. In other words, The cultivators lost their ability to perceive one's cultivation level just by looking at them. For anyone living in the southern continent, they felt the pulse as an earthquake, but for Elon and Azair, the pulse resulted in more than an earthquake. The Guardians are working with the Dwarven Kingdom and the Elven Kingdom to design a device that might solve this problem. But since the competition is in 3 weeks, we might get just a rushed product. At this point, anything would do. Let the Guardians and the Church handle it. If they can't, they should ask the Sky Hall. I heard the Guardians has someone whose sister is the Sky Hall's next Holy Maiden. Noah Winston. It's a pity that we can't let Guardians compete in the tournament, one of the old men said. He has the most potential to win the main tournament, an old lady with golden hair spoke. What about the 5-star alchemist of Rivertown? You mean Ghost? You just answered your own question, Anon. He's an alchemist, not a fighter. This is a stage for big-time warriors who have trained themselves in combat arts for years. Honestly, I don't think he stands a chance. I agree with lovely Gilda here. There's a reason the Alchemist Guild has a tournament of their own. They are not fighters, they are just bookworms. Enough of your predictions, let's talk about the prizes for each championship. Another old man stopped their conversation as the old woman called Gilda said. About that, Gildra retrieved a parchment tied using a golden ribbon from her space ring before sliding it towards the old man who asked about the prizes. The old man picked up the parchment, opening it carefully. The others stared at him, reading what's written on the parchment. His old eyes started to get wide. Except for Gildra, who had already read the parchment. The others wondered what's on the parchment that made the old man Morgan react this way. Well, what is it? The old man put the parchment on the table before him. King of Brodia wants to offer Bradford Barony to the main championship tournament winner. Their eyes went wide in surprise. Not even once in the tournament's history did they offer something such as a barony as a final prize. Why in the hell would he do that? The same old man who commented about the Alchemy Guild asked. Well, there were rumors that Baron Totonk has gone mad after his daughter's death. This parchment seems to prove the rumors were indeed true. Why else would the king consider giving up the barony to someone else? Yeah, I heard about that. Nasty business. I just wish the Guardians and the Church finds that Lucifer before someone else gets murdered. Even if the Baron went mad, what about his sons? The king can make one of Totonk's sons the next Baron. Something smell fishy indeed. The old man who read the parchment frowned. He was old enough to sense there's a scheme hatchery in the motion here. Chapter 269. Michael was standing on the helm deck, watching the sunrise at the horizon. The sun bloomed on the horizon, golden petals stretching ever outwards into the rich blue sky above the calm sea. It was the brilliant flower of the sky that warms the days. It was the invitation to a new day. That sunrise so ordinary yet extraordinary. He changed into his usual black attire, including a black long coat, a black shirt top 2 buttons open to show the chest cut, black trousers and black boots. He still wore the face mask to hide his real face, had rather be safe than sorry. The last night, after spending an hour flying over the clouds, they returned back to the ship to oversee the pirates cleaning the ship. Even after almost 10 full hours of cleaning, the pirates were only able to clean a small portion of the entire ship. He guessed it would take at least 3 days to clean the ship to his liking. Since he supplied all the needed items to do the cleaning, he ordered them to clean the ship while he's spending his time in Giselle. He trusted Maxine would teach them a lesson if his crew tried to slack off. After sailing on the peaceful sea for another hour, the sun completely emerged from the horizon, lighting the land in the distance. The first thing that came to his view was a tall light tower painted in white with red lines at the top and bottom. The closer they got to the light tower, he could vaguely see the buildings, ship docks as well as merchant ships approaching the shore. Kingdom of Giselle, he said under his breath. That's the capital of Giselle, Lord Lucifer. Heimberg came dragging the still unconscious bodies of Logan and Jonah. Krilta right. Michael remembered the city's name Heimberg mentioned earlier. The city of Krilta was built in the shadow of a dormant volcano located in the far north of Krilta. Through the ships docked at the docks and the somewhat tall buildings, he could vaguely see this dormant volcano in the distance. The volcano's upper parts seemed to have been covered by snow, which gave it a unique charm, masking the terror hiding within. The city's elegance was matched by the backdrop of grand forests, which have helped shape the city into what it is today. Considering the volcanic soil contained minerals and various nutrients needed for pasture, the city thrived in farming, wine production, and was blessed with grand forests. The riches the volcano brought were of great importance, but it was also influential when it came to architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings have been built with granite and travertine. In addition to these stones, marble was considered the ultimate epitome of beauty and power by Giselle as well as many other kingdoms. Compared to Elon, the southern continent kingdoms made the main construction of brick and mortar, and lined them with marble slabs. The black warship immediately received everyone's attention in the dock area. Michael saw little children pointing their fingers at the ship while their eyes sparkled in amazement. As the Silent Reaper approached the docking area, Gaia came to his side, stretching her arms after her morning meditation. Like Michael, she too started to wear full black clothes. She wore everything the same as him except the small satchel hanging on her waist where the Hydra is sleeping peacefully. Because Michael lowered a pirate flag that had the skull and 2 swords on it, a group of patrolling soldiers came to the docking area. Michael was not a historian, but he watched enough movies to recognize the soldiers as legionaries with one single look. The patrol unit contained 12 soldiers who held long pointy spears in their hands. They wore red knee-length woolen tunics as well as shin guards made out of leather. They didn't wear boots like the soldiers Michael had seen ever since he came to this world, but they wore sandals. Their torsos were vest-shaped armor with round plates covering their shoulders. Each soldier wore a helmet consisting of 2 flaps to protect their cheeks. In addition, the helm curled a little bit to protect the neck. Only the leading soldier's helmet was adorned with red plumes arranged in a crescent shape. Their thighs and arms were unprotected though. In simple words, they looked exactly like the legionary soldiers of ancient Rome. Not only the soldiers, when Michael looked around the buildings, they also looked exactly the same as the buildings he saw in some Rome-related TV shows and movies. Most of the buildings were 2 stories painted in white with light orange overlapping roof tiles. The unavailability of the ship flag raised suspicion among the soldiers. The soldiers waited for them to leave the ship. Michael turned back to look at Heimberg. "You sure they won't ask a question?" Michael would have put Jonah and Logan into a sack if it wasn't for Heimberg, who told him that he will deal with the soldiers. Until he could get the senators under his control, he decided to keep a low profile. His plan was to control the Giselle kingdom through the senators from the shadows. However, that didn't mean he would not show his powers at all. On the contrary, he would show his powers in a suitable place to get the maximum amount of badass points. As the ship came to a halt, Heimberg put a black bag on Jonah and Logan's heads before following Michael and Gaia to the docks. When Michael was walking down the plank, 3 types of people came into his view. The majority of the 3 were commoners who wore rather plain-looking clothes covering their full bodies. They didn't wear any sparkling pieces of jewelry, or any kind of accessories to adorn themselves, only sweat of hard work adorned them. These people were the majority in the docks area. Most of them were unloading wooden boxes from a merchant ship at the docks a bunch of meters away from the Silent Reaper. What was inside the wooden boxes was not Michael's concern at the moment. The soldiers remained calm until they saw Heimberg dragging 2 bodies that had their heads covered by black bags. Some of the soldiers standing behind the leading soldiers tilted their spears towards Michael as a sign of caution. "Tell your men to move aside, soldier. We are here for official business." Michael noticed Heimberg retrieving a gold-plated card the size of a credit card from the inner pocket of his shirt. This was the first time Michael saw the thing, but apparently not the soldier in the front. The moment he saw the card, the soldier's body tensed. He immediately saluted at Heimberg while his eyes showed a mix of fear and respect. "Where is Senator Caius?" "In his manor, sir." "Does the sir want us to escort you?" The soldier almost raised his voice like he was in a cadet walking. After Heimberg showed the gold card, the soldier didn't even take a second look at the bodies. "Lord Lucifer." Heimberg looked at Michael, wordlessly asking him to speak further. Michael just nodded as Heimberg gave further orders to the soldiers. "No one goes to the ship without my say-so." "Yes, sir." "Tell them to leave him somewhere safe," Michael said, glancing at Logan. "Put him somewhere safe and leave him alone." As per Michael's order, Heimberg moved Logan's body towards the soldiers. The onlookers stared at the scene and the Silent Reaper for a few moments before resuming what they were doing. After all, these working classes were paid for working, not for gawking. In front of Michael, there was a straight road paved in gray stones leading to the inner city. Either side of the roads had buildings and occasional palm-like trees. Dragging Jonah's body would be a pain and slow down their pace, so Heimberg just lifted his body, putting him on his shoulder. As any typical city would have, he noticed smithery, a couple of bakeries as well as ration stores along the way. In addition to those stores, he was surprised to see many alchemy ingredient stores and agriculture supplies stores. Given that all the people in the southern continent required food, there was a higher demand for agriculture supplies than all the other continents. Fresh organic eggs, fruits and vegetables for the cheapest price. Come on, lords and ladies, take a look at our produce. It felt like a century since he heard the cries of farmers and smelled the scent of a marketplace. How much are these? While walking through the streets, he forgot to turn back until he heard Gaia's voice. She was at a fruit stall, smelling the reddish mangoes on a bucker before a white-bearded old man. 10 mangoes for 3 gold coins. No way to dash here. He almost twisted her ears for trying to bargain with the old farmer for 1 gold coin. It was fortunate they could spend the gold coins of Elon in the southern continent, as both the continents shared the same currency. Stop, let me choose, she interrupted the old farmer, and started to pick the mangoes herself. What did she say? Oh yeah, don't focus on the color. Squeeze the mango gently and smell the stem end for a fruity aroma. The old man just stared at Gaia while she took each mango in her hand, squeezing and smelling them. Yeah, take your sweet time. I am taking it. She completely ignored Michael, who just rolled his eyes. Seeing the both of them, the old farmer chuckled. Wives, sir. Heimberg felt a chill crawling through his spine when he saw the old man casually kidding the 2 most terrifying people in the whole southern continent. He thought the old man was going to die a horrible death, but unlike what he expected, Heimberg saw Lucifer just laugh with the old man while she elbowed Michael, gently smiling. Chapter 270. I'm really starting to regret giving you money. She had a basket in her hand full of fruits, vegetables, and meat. In her shopping spree, she forgot the one most important thing. She didn't know how to cook. Because they were walking through the streets full of people, she was unable to put everything in her space ring. The further they walked into the inner city, the less crowded the streets got. The paved street they were walking on opened up in a 3-way junction. In the center of the junction was a beautifully built water fountain. The marble stone coupled with bright blue sparkling water made the fountain truly a majestic structure. In addition to the beautiful fountain, the buildings surrounding were fancier than the buildings near the docks. These buildings were built using marble stones rather than granite, which gave each building a unique charm. Most of the buildings were 3 stories with green plants hanging from the roof as decoration. Besides the buildings, the people roaming on the streets were fancier too, especially the ladies. They wore golden inlaid sleeveless tunics, and some of them wore colorful stolas. Apart from the fancy sparkling dress, each of them had gold and gem-placed pieces of jewelry adorn their ears as earrings, neck as chains, and hands as bangles. I'm standing right here, Gaia said, gritting her teeth. Looking at him gawking at all the ladies began to kindle her jealousy. There were all kinds of hot women walking around the water fountain, redheads, blondes, brunettes, and even some green-haired ladies. Ouch! Only when he felt a sharp pain in his upper arm. His focus on the women broke. Were you checking them out in front of me? I'm not checking them out as you think. It reminds me of something back at home. Since this place resembled the Roman TV shows he watched like Spartacus, he felt some nostalgia. If it wasn't the truth, she would have seen it in his eyes and began to growl about him lying to her. She was with him long enough to see that he's really telling the truth. Plus, they're hot, he teased her to make her mad. Her facial muscles twitched weirdly, making Michael chuckle. She tried to bite him in the shoulder despite the people on the streets. Fortunately, she had a heavy basket in her hand, and he was quick enough to restrain her by wrapping his hand around her shoulder. He squeezed her with love mixed with childish playfulness. Looking at them act this way really made Heimberg wonder what kind of people they are. One moment, he was killing people within a heartbeat. Another moment, he was playing with his girlfriend and laughing with old men to their jokes. Move it, dog. A fancy-dressed woman's voice reverberated the area. Michael noticed a man getting slapped by the woman. Slave. Only took Michael a single glance at the man to recognize the man as a slave. The man had an X-shaped burn scar on his left chest. He wore nothing but a small piece of worn-out tunic only covering his privates. The woman kept beating the man with a stick like he was some kind of animal. The scene gave him major nostalgia, because he spent years of his childhood working for arms dealers and drug dealers as a drug mule along with the other kids in the orphanage. They were slaves to those criminals, which was the reason Michael hated slavery to the core. Although he knew he can't clean the slavery off of the earth, he killed a fair share of slavers in the dark corners of the world. In this world, however, he could gain the power to completely wipe off slavery. This is not the time. Gaia knew his hate towards the slavers. Except for the existence of the system, he shared everything with her as she did with him. Michael calmed himself with a couple of deep breaths. Lead the way, he signaled Heimberg to lead the way as there were 2 roads across the water fountain. Heimberg nodded before taking the lead. Michael silently followed him behind while carefully noticing everything around him. He saw more and more slaves along the way. They all shared the same burn mark. He even saw some completely naked female slaves. The nobles who owned them had no sympathy whatsoever for the slaves, else they would have at least given them a piece of cloth to cover their privates. The slavery is worse than I thought. Gaia felt pity for the slaves. There was no life in the slaves' eyes. They walked behind the nobles like zombies. For the moment, Michael kept walking past them without lifting a finger. After a few more minutes of following Heimberg, an elegant mansion appeared in his view. From the outside, this mansion looked magnificent. It had been built with marble stones and had blue stone decorations. Small, half-rounded windows added to the overall style of the mansion, and had been added to the house in a very asymmetric way. The building was shaped like a T. The 2 extensions extended into a covered patio reaching the end of that side of the house. The second floor was smaller than the first, which created a layered style of look in combination with the roof. This floor had a very different style than the floor below. The roof was flat and covered with brown wood shingles. 2 large chimneys sat at either side of the house. There were no windows on the roof. The mansion itself was surrounded by a gorgeous garden, including hanging grapevines, a couple of lion statues that spit water through its mouth, a pond and many different flowers. Just like the legionary soldiers he saw at the docks, there were many groups of soldiers patrolling the mansion's surroundings. On top of the legionaries, he could see many soldiers who wore no armor but only briefs and long red capes. The long red cape, golden boots, and shield with the symbol V made it pretty obvious to Michael. Are those Spartans? Still Michael asked just to clarify. Yes, they are, Lord Lucifer. Unlike the legionaries, the Spartans remained closer to the mansion entrance. What are you waiting for? Go ahead, Gaia ordered Heimberg. The Spartans were an elite group of soldiers who only answered to the senators. Therefore, Heimberg's gold card meant nothing to the Spartans. Heimberg showed the gold card to the legionary soldiers while walking towards the mansion as the soldiers saluted at him, before moving away from their path. Stop! However, when they approached the front door, a Spartan warrior with dark brown hair and beard stopped them. The Spartan had a clear muscle definition. His face was covered by the helm, but Michael could see his brows frowning looking at the body on Heimberg's shoulder. The Spartan focused on the body as he didn't even take a glance at Michael or Gaia. Who is it? The Spartan didn't address Jonah as a body. It was obvious to Michael that the Spartan soldier saw enough dead bodies to differentiate a live one from a dead body. Heimberg turned his gaze towards Michael, waiting for him to open his mouth. It's Senator Caius' son Jonah. Jonah? The Spartan soldier let out a surprised shout. Why is he unconscious? No matter. The Spartan soldier continued before looking at Michael and Gaia from top to bottom. Spartans! The Spartan soldier shouted as a couple of more Spartans came out of the house. Search them before letting them in. I'll go see Senator Caius. The Spartan soldiers went inside as the other soldiers came to search the trio. Michael let the Spartan soldier search him without saying anything. After all, both Michael and Gaia had no weapons on them, but they kept their weapons in the space ring. Even though Gaia was a female, the Spartan soldier never crossed his line when searching for her. Michael nodded in approval inside looking at their discipline. You can't bring this inside, the Spartan soldier pointed at Gaia's basket. And what's in that satchel? She could leave the basket outside, but there was no way in hell she would show the Hydra to the outside world yet. She didn't even trust Maxine with the Hydra, or she would have left the little Hydra in the ship. It's Senator Caius' package. Michael's words stopped the Spartan soldier from touching the satchel, and probably ended up dead in her hands. After hearing what he just said, the Spartan soldier gave them a look of doubt, but eventually decided not to search the satchel because it's a crime to lay hands on packages such as those of the senators. All the Spartan soldiers knew about the secret operations the senators do in the shadows. Therefore, the soldier kept his hands off of the satchel. "Follow me and don't make any sudden moves," the Spartan soldier warned them before leading them into the mansion. Humph, not a Spartan in this county who could stop these two, Heimberg thought to himself. The Spartan always acted so high and mighty, because they were the strongest and the elite soldiers a kingdom could offer. This made many Spartans extremely overbearing. Heimberg couldn't wait to see the two of them kick some Spartan asses, and nor could Michael. Chapter 271. While following the Spartan soldier, he noticed several more Spartans guarding the mansion. Apart from the Spartans, there were many slave maids cleaning the floors, furniture as well as walls. The mansion's interior was just as fancy as the outside. The marble floors cleaned by the slaves were spotless, reflecting the golden light produced by the miniature chandeliers on the ceiling. The corridor gradually opened up to a spacious hallway where Michael saw several paintings of a man in a toga hanging on the walls. The man looked like a typical Roman nobleman with a short haircut. A few slaves cleaning the floors took a peek at Michael, but they quickly turned their eyes at the floor before the Spartans could notice them. "Clean it thoroughly, lowlives. The rug is worth more than your filthy lives," a legionary soldier shouted at the slaves cleaning the floor near a maroon carpet. The hall was decorated with a classic Roman sofa set with a gold inlaid tea table as a centerpiece. The dark brownish sofa set did not match with the white marble floor per se, but it gave a unique charm to the hall along with a huge chandelier hanging directly above the tea table. The Spartan soldier threw a glance at Michael and Gaia, expecting them to be shocked by the grandness of the mansion, yet what he saw in their eyes was nothing but indifference. Soon, the soldier led them towards the curved stairs on the far end of the hall. Heimberg walked forward on the stairs carrying Jonah on his shoulder. His heartbeat began to rise nearing the senator's room. To this moment, he had no idea what these two were planning to do with Senator Caius. After they climbed the stairs, they saw a majestic two-door with golden doorknobs. The door was guarded by two Spartan soldiers. One was a normally built soldier while the other looked huge, almost double the size of Logan. The soldier wore full golden metal armor from toe to head. There wasn't a single place in his body that wasn't covered by metal. He was at least 7.5 feet tall with the same size spear in his hand. "He's the giant, Senator Caius' personal guard. Wait inside, Senator Caius will meet you in a few moments." The Spartan standing beside the giant opened up the door. "You heard him, don't do anything stupid while you're inside." No one accompanied the trio inside the room. As far as the Spartans concerned, who would be stupid enough to steal something when the giant standing right outside the door? If they were caught stealing or anything that could harm Senator Caius, the giant would rip their bodies apart. Even the Spartans were afraid of the giant. The room they stepped in was large yet looked cozy with thick carpet, a large oak table with two comfy chairs on the front for the guests while white throne-like sofa for the senator. There were no windows though, which was logical considering no one could assassinate the Senate from a distance through the windows. The walls were full of more paintings, except this time, they weren't the paintings of the senator but abstract paintings. So much money wasted. Michael sighed looking at the paintings. He could tell the senator was a fanatic for paintings by looking at the room. Back on Earth, there were rich people who would spend millions of dollars on paintings. Michael never understood these people, and now he knew the senator was one of them. The table was empty without any documents or pacers on it. The golden light radiated by the chandelier lightened up the room. He wondered what's powering up the chandeliers. "Take the bag off," Michael ordered Heimberg as he removed the black cloth from Jonah's head. "Are you gonna wake him up?" as Gaia asked. Michael lifted Jonah with one hand from Herenberg's shoulder and put him on the chair in front of the table. After putting Jonah on the chair, Michael's gaze turned towards the senator's chair. The chair was made of some kind of glossy redwood with gold plates etched on top rails and styles. The seat and arms were covered in dark maroon cushions to provide extra comfort. Heimberg saw Michael walking towards the senator's seat instead of sitting on one of the guest chairs. His heart pounded against his chest with each step he took towards the chair. Gaia followed him behind before hopping onto the table beside the chair. The Spartans outside the door still didn't notice anything happening inside. Standing just beside the chair, Michael willed the system to equip the Lucifer armor without the mask and hood. In a blink of an eye, Heimberg saw Lucifer put his armor on. He shivered at the sight of the black armor. The sight of them in their armors told him the horror of what was about to happen. Heimberger instincts screamed at him. His eyes were locked at the entranceway, expecting the giant to step in any second. If it was before, Heimberg would have been afraid of the giant, but now, Lucifer and the girl freaked him out more than the giant. He witnessed how easily Lucifer killed Ross and everyone. After witnessing what a magic spell could do, he really didn't think even the giant could stand a chance against Lucifer. Good, I was kinda getting bored. Gaia closed her eyes for a second before transforming herself into Dark Queen. Unlike Michael, she put on the black mask and the hood, making herself mysterious and eerie. Michael finally seated himself on the senator's chair, casually putting his legs on the table. He tilted the chair backward, which caused creaking noises. Unacceptable. Just as Michael expected, the noises drew the Spartans' attention. The moment the two Spartans entered the room, the Spartan soldier standing beside the giant shouted at Michael. The giant, however, remained silent, but Heimberg could feel the cold, murderous aura coming from the giant. Grr. The giant uttered no words but growled menacingly. Heimberg's body automatically moved towards Michael's side away from the Spartans. He knew the safest place for him was by Lucifer's side. However, he prayed to the gods that he won't become collateral damage in the battle between the Spartans and Lucifer. It's rude to keep the guests waiting, my dear Spartans. Since he didn't use a voice modulator, he sounded like himself. But what he did and said made the Spartans' blood boil in anger. Soon, several more Spartans came running after hearing their fellow Spartans' initial shout. At the moment, 12 angry Spartans stood at the entrance aiming their spears at Michael and Gaia. As usual, Heimberg saw no distress on his face. Grrrrrrrrr. The giant's growl got louder as he took a step towards Michael. Each of his steps made the room tremble. What's going on here? The giant halted his steps when they all heard a sudden voice. The Spartans moved aside as Michael saw the old man in the painting standing at the entrance with the Spartan soldier they met before. What in the hell? The Spartan soldier reacted the same as the others. Senator Caius. Heimberg called out to the senator to draw his attention. I don't know who you are, but you just made a big mistake. However, Senator Caius was still looking at Michael. Although the senator looked calm, Michael could see the killing intent in his eyes. If gaze could kill one, he would have died by now. The senator walked towards him while the Spartans surrounded the room, waiting for the senator to give the killing order. The senator stopped by the giant's side. He glanced at the giant, wordlessly telling him to wait for his order. I have some questions for you. But before you answer them, you better explain to these two the crimes they committed against the kingdom. Senator Caius could see that they have probably returned from the undead island completing the task, but what Michael did was a crime against him. To this moment, Caius didn't see Jonah's face because he was facing Jonah's back, not his face front. He doesn't take orders from you anymore, Caius, Michael calmly said. Grrrrrrrr. The giant growled more after hearing Michael address Caius by his name. Addressing a senator by his name before others was a crime, and considered insolence against the kingdom itself. Therefore, the Spartans became enraged. Why don't you take a seat beside your son? Michael pointed at Jonah as Caius' eyes went wide in shock. He slowly moved towards Jonah before looking at his face. Instead of acting happy to see his son, Senator Caius creased his frowns while scanning the room for someone. How did he? Where is Ross? Finally, the senator asked for Ross. Did you really think they would survive on that island a second time? Michael's words stunned the senator. For the first time, the anger in his old eyes faded away while a hint of panic emerged in his eyes. I offered him the chance to live. All he had to do was swear his loyalty to me. You? You killed him? The senator gritted his teeth. I don't believe it. You couldn't have killed Ross in a million years. He's a Spartan captain. The Spartan soldier yelled at Michael. To the Spartans, Michael was just a youngster in fancy armor. They couldn't even imagine him killing Ross, a highly decorated Spartan. Oh, he was a Spartan? This was a piece of new news to Michael. That doesn't matter now. Let's get on to business, shall we? Chapter 272. The Spartans were waiting for the senator's orders to kill him. The way he's sitting legs up on the table, the way he spoke made the Spartan blood boil in anger. If you may, Michael looked at Gaia as she flicked her wrist. The very next moment, the door slammed shut. How? The senator's mind went black seeing the door shut itself. The Spartans looked bewildered about what just happened. They had no idea what he was about to do to them if the senator refused to accept his offer. Initially, Michael wanted to silently make the senator his puppet, but after witnessing how the nobles treat the slaves, he wanted to show the senator a glimpse of hell, so he would do everything Michael says with no questions asked. From now on, you're gonna do everything I tell you to, Senator Caius. Can we kill him now? Grrrr. The giant growled as usual while the Spartans basically trembled to kill Michael. Yet, Senator Caius hesitated to give the order because he wanted the artifact he ordered Heinberg to get. Most of all, he didn't want the Spartans to know about the off-the-books operation. But it was too late for him to send the Spartans out as Gaia already put a barrier around the room when she shut the door. The barrier would prevent the Spartans from leaving along with any sound. As you can see, my Spartans are very eager to kill you. You and I both know what's keeping me from giving the order. The senator retrieved his calm composure. He didn't know what sort of technique they pulled to close the door, but with his Spartans and the giant, he felt invincible. As far as Caius was concerned, their lives were in his hands. What do you think is in that bag? You can tell him. Michael didn't worry about confirming Caius the existence of the artifact. If Michael's guess was right, Caius would either doubt the truth or try to get his hands on the satchel. The moment H nodded, Caius' body shuddered. But it's mine now, growling. I'm gonna give you one last chance, kid. Give me the artifact and beg for my mercy. I might tell Giant to go easy on you too. Giant this, what's the big deal? You think he can protect you from me? Finally Caius snickered, having enough with Michael. The giant took a step forward as the Spartans took a step back. They had all seen what the giant would do to Caius' targets. Ignitia. He aimed his index finger at the giant's head as a thick golden lightning bolt went straight through the giant's metal helmet like a hot knife through butter. For a few moments, no one uttered a single word. They were speechless. Thud. It took the giant's body a few seconds to hit the ground. Soon the giant was lying in his own pool of blood beside Senator Caius. Protect the senator. Only the Spartan soldier Michael met first regained his senses. He immediately shouted at the other Spartans, realizing the danger Caius was in. Caius, however, stood still in shock. His brain went blank seeing magic for the first time in his life. Wind blast. Before the Spartan soldier could come to the senator's side from where he was standing, Michael cast another spell, blasting the Spartans as well as the senator into the wall. Spartans, gladiators, giants, no one can protect you from me if I want you dead. Michael slowly stood up from his chair. The Spartans were strong, but the wind blast was stronger. The force of them hitting the stone wall almost knocked them out. Senator Caius wiggled on the ground, trying to get up. Almost all the Spartans on their knees while trying to get a good grip of their spears to attack Michael and defend the senator. Gaia walked along with him before kicking one of the Spartan soldiers in the gut. She didn't stop with one but kicked every Spartan soldier. If she was a southerner, they would have dodged or evaded her kick. Since she used arch energy to speed her movements, they could do nothing. In a couple of moments, all the Spartan soldiers were coughing up blood with broken ribs. Only Caius was lying on the ground unharmed by Gaia. Get up, Michael lifted the senator by his neck. Do you need another glimpse? I think you do. He held Caius in one hand while pointing his index finger at the Spartan soldier they met first. Ignitia, the lightning bolt fired from Michael's fingertip, took another life in a blink of an eye. The blood splattered on Caius' toga, painting the white toga red. Bast! Ignitia, the Spartan soldier who just opened his mouth to curse Michael, received a bolt of lightning through his head. Arg! The other Spartans growled in a mix of anger and shock. They wanted to stop him from killing more people. Their instincts and training told them to save Caius first before figuring out how he is using magic inside the void line. By sending your son to the undead island, You issued a death warrant on him. What's that tell you about you? Michael's grip around Caius' throat tightened. The old man's face started to turn pale. That you're not a good man, in other words, you're a bad man. After he said that, he threw the senator to the other end of the room. Thud. Senator. The senator hit the wall pretty hard before falling to the ground. His neatly ironed toga now looked messy with a few stains of blood. Stay still. When the Spartans tried to stand up, Gaia began to kick them once again. This time harder than before. Michael first went to the chair beside Jonah before dragging the senator by his neck. Let's start the conversation again. Michael put the senator on the chair beside Jonah, who was still in an unconscious state. He then hopped onto the table, putting his legs on the senator's chair's arms. Normally I would have killed you slowly and painfully. Tiny bolts of lightning danced around Michael's fingers. He moved his hand closer to the senator's face, so he could hear the sound of electric bolts. Who are you? I'm the man who's gonna rule this continent. Michael pulled Caius' right arm. L-A-R-R-R-G-G. Michael began to write his name one letter at a time on Caius' arm using the lightning bolt. His skin began to burn as Caius screamed in agony. You, Senator. Arga. Because of the barrier Gaia put around, not a single sound escaped the room. Watching Lucifer torture Caius sent a chill running through Heinberg's spine. He had seen the senator and the Spartans torture and kill people before, but he never imagined someone would do the same to them. Karma is a bitch, Senator. Heinberg sighed inside. After tattooing the letter F of his name, the senator's eyes rolled inside the socket. He was losing his consciousness, yet Michael injected a small amount of healing potion into Caius' bloodstream to keep him awake. It was not enough to heal the burn wounds, it was just enough to keep him from losing consciousness. Say my name. For the first time since he came to Caius' house, Heinberg saw his face turn serious. Standing on the side, seeing him like this terrified the heck out of Heinberg, and he could imagine how terrified the senator would be. Senator's body shivering was a pretty good sign of the fear in his heart. Say my name. The intensity of the lightning bolts increased while the room began to turn darker and darker. Caius looked up growling in pain to see Lucifer's eyes glowing in crimson red color. Lucifer. The moment the senator said his name, his eyes fired up as dark smoke enveloped his body, completing Michael's Dark Lord form. With a swift kick, Michael turned Senator's chair to face the Spartans. I'm gonna make you a one-time offer. While speaking to Caius, he pointed at a Spartan. The lightning bolt brushed past Caius' ear and ended the Spartan's life in a second. From now on, yet again, he sent another lightning bolt, killing another one. You work for me. Heinberg saw another Spartan soldier lose his life. Their eyes were still open with full of fear and shock. Or you and everyone you care for. This time Michael raised both of hand as several lightning bolts shot from his hands killed all the Spartans in the room. When the lightning bolts disappeared, the Spartan bodies permeated smoke and burned skin smell. The sight made Caius' blood run cold. Will die. Michael finished his sentence after he turned Caius' chair to look him in the eyes. Their deaths were quick. Betray me or even think about it, you will beg for death. While the senator was scared shitless, Michael willed the system to place a teleportation rune on the table, so he could teleport in and out of the room wherever he wanted discreetly. Clean the mess. Our senator here will offer a generous amount of gold to the Spartans' families who unfortunately lost their lives saving the senator's life from a group of assassins. Hi guys. I've been playing the heck out of Battlefield 2042 open beta for the last 2 days, so that was why I couldn't update the chapters. Sorry. Your favorite author does deserve a day or two off. Chapter 273. Was that really necessary? While flying above the city, Gaia asked Michael. Was what? Killing the Spartans. I thought we were just gonna beat the hell out of them. Michael stopped flying for a moment to answer Gaia. First, the Spartans would have told others that Caius is working for me. Second, killing all of them was the best way to scare and make Caius our bitch. Third, anyone who protects scumbags like Caius with their lives doesn't deserve to live. Michael never knew the Spartans like Heinberg. When he killed them, he only listened to his gut feeling which said the Spartans were anything but innocent. What's the plan now? She wasn't going to argue with him after noticing the cold intent in his eyes. Ever since he said he saw a glimpse of the future, she noticed many changes in him. He had become more cold-blooded. To be honest, she wasn't worried about his newfound changes. On the contrary, she was glad because there was no way a soft-hearted person could achieve their goals. We'll take a day off first. Then, we'll kidnap all the senators and make them our bitches. She saw him smile coldly. Leaving Heinberg in Krilta, they continued to fly in a random direction. After flying for an hour, they found a glossy grass field on the top of a small mountain cliff. The sun was many hours away from setting down, yet their limit of arch energy usage time made them rest for the day. I want this world to stay like this. Standing atop the cliff, he looked at the majestic view before him. As far as his eyes could see, the land was covered with green forests, grasslands, zigzaggy rivers, lakes and a chain of mountains, yet only a small portion of this vast Mother Nature contained man-made buildings. Although he was not into saving nature back on Earth, compared to Earth, this world was heaven. It was because these people coexisted with nature instead of destroying it. At first, he didn't value nature's beauty too much, but after seeing the future world where there wasn't a single tree or clean water source, he wanted to preserve this world as it is. If that meant fewer technologies, he was ready to sacrifice technology for nature. This was purely a decision made of selfishness, as he would rather rule a beautiful fantasy world than a technologically advanced polluted planet. They sat down on the grass field, feeling the gentle coldness of the dew. Gaia rested her head on his shoulder as he on her head. The Hydra wiggled out of the satchel onto Gaia's lap. It will be more beautiful if we have someone to play with. The silver head sounded a little gloomy. You do have someone to play with, little fella, a big scaly dumb dragon. Hearing her words, even the white head looked surprised and even delighted for a second. Think of him like your big brother, said Michael. Where is he now? The silver head asked with a bit of excitement hidden within its voice. He is at home. Don't worry, we'll go there soon. His purpose of visiting the southern continent was almost finished. The only thing he had to do was get all the senators in line, so he could rule Giselle from the shadows. Let's just say we control every kingdom in this world. What then? If you're asking me, will I rule this world as an emperor? No, too many risks, too many responsibilities, too much exposure. I prefer living my immortal life without any of those. What if I want to be the queen or the empress? She lifted her head from his shoulder, looking directly into his eyes. In his eyes, she seemed serious yet funny at the same time. For a few seconds, he couldn't find a suitable answer for her. He just stared at her pretty eyes. If you really want that throne, I'll not stop you, but don't expect me to play king. You will be a king after you marry me, it's destiny. She pinched his cheek playfully. Who said I'm gonna marry you? Her smile completely disappeared from her face. The rosy color of her face became redder while her eyes slightly welled up, looking at the earnest expression on his face. I'm just messing with you. Seeing her eyes watering up, he cupped her rosy cheeks playfully. You fucker. She lunged at him with all her strength and rage. Whoa. The Hydra jumped away to avoid being crushed under them as Michael and Gaia rolled on the ground. She kept drumming his chest for the prank he played. However, Michael's chest was like a steel plate. No matter how hard she hit, he didn't feel any pain. For him, it was great fun teasing her after a long day of work. You heartless son of a bitch. I will teach you a fucking lesson. Is that so? Michael grabbed her both hands while she tried to wiggle out of his grab. She was on top of him, which put a foxy smile on Michael's face. She was too angry to notice this smile as she continued to struggle. Stop, you two. There's something going on. The white head and silver head slid towards them. At the moment, the Hydra's wings and legs hadn't completely grown yet, so they moved like a snake. While she was struggling, Michael turned his head to see the Hydra. Don't you hear the commotion? The blackhead asked. The shoutings, the screams? Michael released Gaia's hands before wrapping his hands around her waist and stood up. He then hugged her from behind, looking at the Hydra on the ground. I don't hear anything. Release me. Stop it, snake. He placed a kiss on her neck and cheeks from behind to stop her wiggle. As he expected, she stopped moving as she let out a quick bark of laughter. Where did you say the noise was coming from? We didn't. The white head said. That way. The silver head turned its head further towards the forest. Finally, Michael let go of Gaia as she seemed to have calmed down. Are we going or not? The white head craned its head, wordlessly telling Gaia to pick them up. After flying around the kingdom, They only had 1 hour left of their arch energy usage. Yet, the Hydra's curiosity made them fly towards the direction pointed by the Hydra. They were flying above the lush green mountains, until they saw a city surrounded by tall walls on the horizon. Unlike Krilta, this city was smaller and surrounded by city walls. Compared to the capital city itself, this city was far more defensible. Instead of landing and paying the guards as they would in any city, they flew directly into the city hiding among the clouds. When they got closer to the city, they noticed the presence of soldiers was far higher than Krilta. From the sky, they could see numerous legionary soldiers, as well as Spartans, patrolling in and outside the city walls. The buildings and the architectural style were the same as Krilta though. Soon, they quickly descended from the sky onto a dark alley. "Mommy, look, gods!" A boy standing on the balcony they landed shouted. Michael just winked at the boy before walking out of the dark alley into the crowded streets. The people largely consisted of women, and men in fancy clothes were running towards something. There were not many slaves on the streets. Michael saw only a few slaves. They were completely naked and had various burn marks on their bodies. Ignoring the slaves as he was unable to do anything for them at the moment, Michael followed the crowd. This is what will happen if any of these strays tries to escape their masters. When they came to stop, Michael saw a stage built with 3 male naked slaves hanging. Their eyes were bulged out as their tongues were sticking out. In addition, there were deep-cut wounds all over their bodies. Many noble ladies had their hands on their mouths looking at the gruesome sight. Yet, they remained there listening to the 6-feet-tall muscular man on the stage. He wore a golden toga and had a long bloody sword in his hand. Obviously, the blood on the sword was the slaves, and he indicated as much as pain he could to the slaves before hanging them. Michael wondered why. No slave can rebel against their masters in any Senate-ruled kingdom, not in my watch. Soon, I will do the same to those rebels hiding in the Grey Mountains. The sudden talk about rebels piqued both Michael and Gaia's curiosity. Those dogs of gladiators are not a match for our Spartans. When the right time comes, I will personally march into Grey Mountains and bring the traitors' heads, and that day shall be set in stone as an example. Hail General Hyrieus! Hail General Hyrieus! Hail General Hyrieus! The nobles cheered in joy and pride while a few of the slaves stared at him with burning anger in their eyes. Michael noticed this. Unlike the slaves in Kryla, these slaves seem to have been wanting to be free men. It seems we have a gladiator army waiting for us, standing among the cheering crowd. Michael thought to himself before deciding to follow Hyrieus. Sorry guys, I was so focused on doing things I don't love, and missed doing what I love the most. It took me a while to find the strength needed to follow my passion instead of doing what others ask of me. I quit my internship and decided to become a full-time writer. So good news, expect 2 to 3 chapters a day from November. And I hope you guys stick with me and continue to support my work. Chapter 274. The streets were filled with soldiers and nobles. Either side of the streets had various shops such as utensil shops, markets, meat shops as well as small restaurants. Despite the crowd walking in front of him, his eyes were fixed on Hyrieus, who was accompanied by 20 Spartans and 25 legionary soldiers. It'd be impossible to assassinate Hyrieus unless the assassin is Michael, who could use arch energy. However, it was not Michael's plan to assassinate Hyrieus. Let's just take him already. Gaia started to lose her patience after following Hyrieus for almost half an hour. The gentle warmth of the morning sun now transformed into the scorching sun. The noble ladies were frantically waving their fans to cool themselves. He felt pity for the ladies who had to wear corsets and thick clothes. Where the fuck is he going? She craned her neck slightly to see Hyrieus' party. Soon she got to know the answer for her question when she saw a 4-story building with 2 7-feet lion statues standing outside. Unlike the rest of the buildings, the one Hyrieus was walking towards was built using decorated glasses and some kind of redwood. The beams were made of wood while the walls, windows, and doors were made of glass. After Hyrieus entered the building through the front door, Michael and Gaia reached the 2 lion statues. Even among the nobles, only those who had Spartans as bodyguards entered the building. What's this building? An inn? I don't think so. Michael noticed the nobles showing some kind of card to the legionary soldiers standing by the door before entering the building. We should do the usual. Rent a room in a tavern nearby. Watch his every moment using spiders and then decide what to do with him next. I'm hungry, the whitehead's voice came out from Gaia's satchel. Seeing the sun was roasting them and there was no way of getting into the building without revealing their power, Michael decided to go with Gaia's plan. Under the shade of the buildings, they strolled on the street looking for a tavern nearby. Nearly 20 meters away from the building Hirius entered, they found a lively tavern called the Lost Castle. From the outside, the tavern looked somewhat grand, peaceful, and cheerful. Marble stones and pillars made up most of the building's outer structure. It was difficult to see through the small, curtained windows, but the inviting music from within can be felt outside. The music had a medieval vibe to it which was very pleasant to listen to. Move your ass, human. Something smells really nice in there. Gaia gave a light pat on the satchel, hoping to shut up the whitehead before walking towards the door. She too felt hungry after all the walking and flying. As they entered the tavern through the hard wooden door, they were welcomed by laughing voices and the smile of a waitress. The bartender was a bald middle-aged man. For a moment, a small smile appeared on his face, but after scanning both of them from top to bottom, that smile disappeared from his face. Nonetheless, the tavern was as lovely inside as it was on the outside. Rounded stone beams supported the upper floor and the light fixtures attached to them. The walls were decorated with mounted animal heads, hides, and small animals. It was clear the owner is an avid hunter, and the smells coming from the kitchen indicated that the animals don't go to waste. The tavern was packed. Commoners and lesser nobles seemed to be the primary clientele here. Several long tables were occupied by Spartan soldiers. The other, smaller tables were also occupied by legionary soldiers who seemed to be enjoying their time by harassing girls in rather ragged plain clothes. When Michael and Gaia stepped into the tavern, in addition to some legionary soldiers, a few tog-wearing golden-haired youngsters turned their heads towards them. Ignoring their gazes, Michael walked towards an enmity table in the far end of the tavern. It's cool here. The sun's heat could not be felt in the tavern, not even a bit. Michael looked surprisingly around the room to find how they were cooling the inside. Sheila. Despite the bartender's hostility towards outsiders, he shouted at one of the waitresses to go to Michael's table. Oh, quit whining, Pablo. Sheila is serving us. A legionary soldier on the other end of the tavern from Michael's table replied the bartender, raising his voice. If it was Noah, he would have jumped the gun to fight the legionary soldiers for harassing a waitress. Michael was different. He remained calm, but he had a feeling that a fight was ahead because just like the bartender, some of the legionary soldiers too stared at Michael and Gaia with hostile looks on their faces. What's crawled into their asses? Gaia noticed these hostile gazes on them, and she did not like them. If only she wasn't hungry, she would have beat the crap out of them. For now, answering her cravings was her first priority. Sheila, a brown-haired girl who wore a tattered brown top and grayish skirt. The girl was a commoner, that meant she had a better life than the slaves Michael saw. Yet in the tavern filled with legionary soldiers, lesser nobles and few Spartans, a commoner like her was the lowest kind. When Michael thought about it, the situation in the southern continent wasn't much different than Elon, except in Elon, there were only two kinds, cultivators and those who stuck at arch sensing or foundation stage all their lives, who were called commoners by the cultivators. In the southern continent, there were three kinds: nobles, commoners, and slaves. In a rich city filled with nobles and lesser nobles such as this, the nobles practically treated commons like their slaves. It was the girls who got the worse. It'd be a miracle if they lived through a month without being harassed or forced upon by a noble. Not that it was okay, but at least most of the cultivators would leave their victims with enough gold coins to live comfortably. In the southern continent, though, the nobles were far more heartless than those cultivators. Honey, why don't you serve yourself to us? The other waitresses were nowhere to be found while Sheila was being harassed by some noble youngsters. Can we kill them already? The white had enough of waiting. Since it inherited Gaia's personality, it hated waiting for food. Fuck them up. What the? Gaia was stunned after hearing the whitehead shout. The youngsters who were harassing Sheila stopped what they were doing as almost everyone in the tavern looked at Gaia and Michael. Well, I wanted to avoid a cliché restaurant fight, but here we are. Michael shook his head disappointedly. Hee, looks like you're about to have a cliché fight. The system laughed inside his head. At least I don't have to use arch energy to beat these guys. Did you say fuck them up, bloody foreigners? A legionary soldier slowly stood up from his table, menacingly looking at both Michael and Gaia. The noble youngster finally let go of Sheila as their focus turned on Gaia. A much more beautiful girl than Sheila. I had a long fucking day and I'm fucking hungry, so I strongly suggest you assholes reconsider what you're about to do. Gaia removed the satchel as she put it on the table. Everyone, including the few Spartans, was completely surprised by her words. But soon their surprise became anger. They couldn't tolerate an outsider, and a girl disrespects their fellow soldiers. You better get on the ground, begging for forgiveness, bitch. The legionary soldier gritted his teeth. You got insurance for this place? Michael asked the bartender. Why do you care? It's your bitch friend who needs 1 inch. The bartender's answer surprised Michael, and at the same time, angered him a bit. He didn't know how they found out that they were foreigners, or why the bartender was hostile towards the outsiders. Wrong answer. Michael slowly moved his hand back behind the chair, releasing spiders onto the ground. Since they might take longer than they actually planned, he didn't want Helios out of his sight. Therefore, he released the spiders so they could get inside the building and monitor him. Apologize for your words, or we will have to arrest you. A Spartan soldier stepped forward. Arrest me? You'd be lucky to lift a fucking finger when I'm done with you. Finally, Gaia stood up, cracking her wrist. Let me take a shot, soldier. Suddenly the youngster who was harassing Sheila stepped forward with a wicked smile plastered on his face. Oh fuck this. Gaia lost her patience as she picked up the candle holder on their table before throwing it towards the youngster. The candle holder's round base hit the youngster's face with enough force to make him stumble backward and fall. Her movements were so quick as the legionary soldiers standing beside the youngster had no time to react at all. Arrest her. The Spartan soldier seemed calm despite her actions. However, the legionary soldiers and the youngster's 3 noble friends got extremely mad. Their bodies shivered in anger. Lock the fucking door. I don't want them running away. The legionary soldier ordered the others. You're gonna regret that. Finally Michael himself stood up. At the moment, none of the soldiers or Spartans knew who they were messing with. Chapter 275. Somewhere else in the southern continent, one could see vast chains of complex mountains. Each mountain in the chain was tall to the point that they almost touched the clouds. People called this chain of mountains the Gray Mountains because at night, the trees blanketing the mountains glimmered a silver light. The scholars of the southern continent studied the trees and their leaves, coming to the conclusion that the leaves had a property that absorbs moonlight and produces a vapor that radiates in silver color. In addition to the silver light, the vapor produced by leaves had a cooling effect. The scholars and blacksmiths of the southern continent were able to create a device that absorbs this vapor, store it within and release it slowly to cool down a room or a hall depending on the device's size. The Gray Mountains spread vast as the mountains surrounded 3 kingdoms. Each of the 3 kingdoms was ruled by a king instead of a senate. Among the 7 kingdoms in the continent, only these 3 kingdoms were ruled by kings. Over the years, the senates tried to overthrow a king's regime, intending to replace the kings with the senate by conducting many clandestine operations, yet the senates failed because the alliance between the 3 kings was too strong. Considering the 3 kingdoms were surrounded by Gray Mountains, it'd be near impossible for other senate-ruled kingdoms to prevail in a war against these kingdoms. In addition to being a natural wall for the 3 kingdoms, the mountains provided the kingdoms with gray leaves, which were one of the major economic pillars for these kingdoms. No matter how hard the Senate tried to grow the gray leaves trees, they simply could not succeed as the gray leaves trees were exclusive to the Gray Mountains. If one tried to harm the Gray Mountain forests, they would not only face the wrath of the 3 kingdoms, but also the wrath of the Elven Empire in the Outer Continent because the forest was worshipped by elves all over the world. This was another layer of protection the 3 kingdoms got from the Gray Mountains. No bandit camp or any threat could prevail in the Gray Mountains. At least that was what the rest of the world thought. In the Forest of Kivin Kingdoms, part of the Gray Mountains, a campsite containing numerous tents could be seen under the thick canopy. But the campsite was not inhabited by bandits, it was inhabited by someone else. The campsite was surrounded by a makeshift wall made of wooden poles with a pointy end. Inside this wall, there were numerous sturdy men doing chores such as tending to the horses, chopping logs, fixing tents, and sharpening their weapons. Apart from these sturdy men, one could also see several women of various ages from young to old. Despite their gender, all of them had many scars on their bodies, including burn wounds. Every one of them in the camp was a slave. Many of them joined the Gladiator Rebellion 3 years ago, before settling down in the Grey Mountains. The rebellion was led by the gladiator named Doctorus, the same man who trained Titus and Optimus, Arius brothers. 3 years ago, the Gladiator Rebellion started in Ludus Gallion in the Myro Kingdom. Soon it became a slave rebellion as many slaves began to rebel against their masters, fighting for their freedom. The rebellion sparked the dormant fire within the slaves to yearn for freedom. If the rebellion created a spark within the slaves, it created a forest fire within the nobles. The nobles viewed this rebellion as nothing but treason. Many nobles living in the Senate-ruled kingdoms began to treat the slaves even worse than before after the rebellion. Some of them even executed the slaves to make an example out of them. In addition to the atrocities against the slaves, many luduses, schools of gladiators, increased security and enforced strict rules to keep their gladiators from rebelling. Regardless of everything, still many gladiators killed their masters and joined the rebellion. Of course, among those who rebelled, many died before even crossing the kingdom's border, and those who survived suffered various injuries in the hands of legionary and Spartan soldiers. At the moment, inside a tent on the northern side of the camp, Tiberius was staring at the dagger in his hand. His hands were frantically shaking. Holding the dagger in his right hand, he touched the deep cut back of his neck. The wound was running from the neck to the middle of his back. Although he survived this deadly cut, it affected the muscle movements of his arms. He could not even hold his daggers tightly. If he did, his arms would silver uncontrollably. The dagger reflected a square-jawed man's face covered in wavy hair. Each passing day, his strength diminished little by little. He could tell that soon, he would not be able to fight at all. Tiberius quickly put the dagger away when he heard someone calling him. Although most of his fellow gladiators noticed his illness, they didn't say anything. The man who came to Tiberius' tent was another gladiator called Marcus. "What is it, Marcus?" Tiberius asked in a thick British accent. "It's time. Time for another bloody meeting." Tiberius made his irritation obvious but still followed behind Marcus to Doctorus' tent, which was located in the camp center. "Afternoon, Marcus." "Hiya, Marcus." "Greetings, Marcus." Almost all of the people they met on the way to Doctorus' camp greeted Marcus with a smile, but avoided eye contact with Tiberius. It was because ever since they settled here 3 years ago, Tiberius always had disagreements with Doctorus and many other gladiators. Plus, Tiberius was short-tempered and the most feared gladiator among them. Unlike Doctorus, who preferred to take a subtle approach with the senates and the nobles, Tiberius wanted to strike them down before the nobles could do the same to them. As far as Tiberius was concerned, he wanted a more aggressive leader to lead them. If not for the injury he suffered 2.5 years ago when they attacked a ludus in Gisel, he would have fought for the leadership. Nonetheless, after all these 2 years, besides the injury, he also realized that he's not suited for leadership. That was why he's trying to push Doctorus to be more aggressive. Although Tiberius didn't like the way Doctorus does things, he respected the man. After all, Doctorus trained him and all the other gladiators in Ludus Gallion. He followed Marcus, ignoring all the pleasantries for a few moments before reaching the biggest tent of their campsite. The tent was large enough to hold a big round table they used for meetings and Doctorus belongings, which were not many. Other than being Doctorus' room, the tent also served as an armory. When Tiberius entered the tent, there were 6 male gladiators including Doctorus, and 2 female gladiators were standing around the table. "I just received a piece of news from Gisel. Hyrieus has hanged 3 more people who tried to escape the kingdom. In this camp, many avoided using the word slave. They were fighting against slavery, and stopping using the word was their first step towards abolishing slavery." Fucking shithead, Tiberius punched the table in anger. He wanted to rip Hyrieus' throat off. He's been hunting the boar bastards ever since we started this rebellion. Were those people gladiators or slaves? Tiberius was one of the few people who's still using the word slave. After seeing what they did to Titus and Optimus, he hated being a slave himself, yet unlike Doctorus, He didn't believe that a simple thing like stopping using the word slave was enough to abolish slavery. Cleaners and maids, Doctoress answered. Let me guess, that bastard tortured them before hanging them. Tiberius did not look at any of them but Doctoress. Despite the respect he had for Doctoress, Tiberius felt his anger erupting within towards Doctoress. Doctors remained silent while everyone took his silence as a yes, coupled with the frustration of his worsening condition. This piece of news flamed the fan of Tiberius' anger. What did I tell you, Doctoress? Leaving Hyrieus alive was a stupid decision. We should have killed him when we had the chance. He tightened his fist as his hand began to shiver. Although the gladiators standing around the table didn't agree with Tiberius on almost anything, this time was different. You were there with me, Tiberius. It was killing Hyrieus or saving those girls. Even if I had to do it again, I would still do the same. Then what the fuck are we doing right here? We don't have to anyone now. We must kill that fucker before he tortures and hangs more people. Give me 5 men, and I will bring that bastard head. You can't, Tiberius. Doctoress immediately rejected Tiberius' request. You're not the same Tiberius you were once, and I'm not gonna send you on a suicide mission knowing that you'll die. What did you say? The situation immediately tensed up as Tiberius walked forward towards Doctoress with intent to fight. He couldn't control his anger after being insulted by doctors like this in front of the others. Among everyone in the Ludus Galleon, only Titus and Optimus could fight and win him. Since they were not here, he would have been the best gladiator in this camp if not for his condition. Stop, Tiberius. Marcus and some of the gladiators moved in front of Tiberius, trying to stop him. Get out of my way. Tiberius punched Marcus in the jaw. The punch should have knocked down Marcus. Instead, it did not even move Marcus' head. That's it, Marcus said before throwing a punch at Tiberius. If he was at his peak, he would have evaded Marcus' punch, but his condition slowed his movements. Doctorus shook his head disappointedly after seeing Tiberius getting knocked down by Marcus. He couldn't help but feel pity for Tiberius. A few minutes after sending men carrying unconscious Tiberius, the meeting resumed. Doctorus stared at the map of Giselle with a dagger in his hand. Tiberius was right. We must stop Hyrieus before he harms more people. As he said, he plunged the dagger into the table through the map of Giselle. Right at this moment, none of the gladiators knew that Hyrieus was begging for his life to the Dark Lord. Chapter 276. In a blink of an eye, 3 days passed since they visited Lanercost, where they saw Hyrieus hang the slaves. The last 3 days were not very exciting for Gaia except when she beat the hell out of legionary soldiers, Spartans, and the noble youngsters in the tavern. Your Highness, he's here. While Gaia was talking to Michael through the earbud, she saw Heinberg approach her slowly. The sun had already set on the horizon, leaving the darkness to envelop the kingdom. The only light source in the room was the burning candles on the table before Gaia. The door gradually creaked open to reveal Senator Caius. The senator's eyes took a few seconds to adjust to the darkness. Soon he saw Gaia sitting on his chair behind the table. He couldn't find Lucifer when he looked around. The image of him killing his Spartan soldiers was etched into his mind. Ever since that day, he has been having trouble sleeping. What do you know about Senator Viridius? She didn't even ask him to sit down. She just directly asked the question. For a few moments, the senator stared at her in fear. His face was pale while his legs slightly shivered. Noticing his behavior, Gaia sighed. Look, as long as you serve us loyally and help us get what we want, we're not gonna hurt you. Plus, you'll get everything you've dreamt of and more. Now sit down. She gestured at the senator to sit down as he took a few seconds of time before sliding the chair towards him and seating himself. Back to my question. Tell me about Senator Viridius? Senator Viridius is the head of the military. He was a Spartan captain until he was elected by the people. What's his connection with Hyrieus? Gaia noticed the surprised look in his eyes when she asked him about Hyrieus. General Hyrieus? Yes, General Hyrieus is Senator Viridius' soon-to-be son-in-law. He came to Giselle to make sure his wedding's preparations are going well. This time Gaia was surprised because when Michael interrogated him, he said he came to Giselle to investigate the slave rebellion and watch the gladiator fight in the arena. Funny, Hyrieus said he came to investigate the slave rebellion and have fun watching the gladiators fight. The gladiator fight is a part of their wedding ceremony. The slave rebellion, it was more of his hobby. It's his. His voice trailed off because of the sudden realization he had. His what? Hobby pleasure? Senator Caius couldn't see the snicker behind her mask. He knew she was right because he too heard rumors about Hirius, disturbing rumors. If anyone else, Senator Caius would have kept his mouth shut. However, to her or Lucifer, he would rather tell everything he knew than keep his mouth shut when being asked a question. Both. I heard rumors about General Hirius buying slaves. And the slaves are never to be seen after that. Gaia finished Caius' sentence. Is it true that Viridius leading the operation to catch the rebels? Caius frowned, recalling the conversation he had with Viridius several weeks ago when they met at a gala. When we met, he said he has someone else taking the charge. That someone else was Hirius and Viridius is running the thing behind the curtains. By looking at Caius' expression, she could tell Caius was telling the truth. Anyways, we have a golden opportunity for you, Caius. In the middle of the night, Michael appeared inside Caius' room where Gaia was still waiting for him. In addition to Gaia, Maxine was standing behind Gaia's chair like a good bodyguard. Those who were in the Order of Death were extremely loyal to the Dark Lord despite the fact that the Dark Lord didn't even exist in their timeline. They worshipped the Dark Lord as their god. Those who escaped the Guardians still worshipped him in secret, and passed their beliefs to their descendants. They did their best to make sure their descendants would find the Dark Lord eventually, and serve him as they would have. Luckily for Michael, Maxine was just as loyal as her ancestors who served the Order. Therefore, when Michael told Maxine that Gaia will be his wife, Maxine's loyalty towards Gaia skyrocketed because if Dark Lord is her god, the woman he marries would become her goddess. Heinberg went to take care of his part of the plan, which is to make sure all the senators show up to enjoy the gladiator fight. Lot was riding on the upcoming gladiator fight where the entire fate of Giselle would change. Lord Lucifer, Maxine went to her knees almost immediately when she saw him appear in the room out of the thin air. You can stand up and tell me you've done what I asked. Michael waved his hand as the replica of his skull and bones thrown in the abyssal appeared before him. He sat facing Gaia on the senator's chair. It's done, Lord Lucifer. Good, as he said. Michael turned his eyes towards the corner of the room where there was nothing, only darkness. However, there was something in the darkness, a living person. Maxine noticed his look as she walked towards the dark corner to retrieve the package. Come on, Darkling. Michael saw Maxine dragging out a man from the dark corner. Time to wake up, plap. Maxine slapped the man to wake him up. Soon, the man's body began to wiggle as he woke up. Nonetheless, the man could utter a word because there was a cloth wrapped around his mouth preventing him from screaming. This man was none other than General Hirius himself. The building Hirius entered was a local guard garrison. It was protected on the ground level, as well as kept archers to prevent anyone from entering the building from above. But the archers never expected to meet someone who could fly in the sky and rain arrows on them. It was as simple as walking through the front door after killing the archers. After entering the building, everything happened so fast as Michael and Gaia killed Hirius guards, interrogated Hirius for a while before leaving the garrison with Hirius. Lord Lucifer, you want me to take it off? She pointed at the mouth wrapping around Hirius' mouth. No need for now. What did you find? Gaia suddenly asked. A potential recruit, Michael said, resting his head on his fist. Regardless of the upcoming important thing, he looked extremely calm. Aren't we gonna recruit the whole camp? We are, but this one, he's something more. He could be something more. Michael had a smile on his face. After seeing that gladiator, he had a feeling that this gladiator could be his god of war. Lucifer, we need a reality check before moving forward with our plan. There's a possibility that the gladiators wouldn't want to fight for us. The same goes for your potential recruit. Not for him. He's ill, wanting to relive his glory days, and looking for a better leader. If we can't recruit him, we can't recruit anyone. He then looked at Hirius as a cold smile emerged on his face. Also, he's desperate to put an end to Hirius' reign. And we're gonna gift this pig to him. Hirius wiggled frantically while trying to scream, yet nothing but muffled cries escaped his mouth. Knock him out, after hearing Gaia's order. Maxine knocked Hirius out with a swift punch to the side of his face. Lord Lucifer, how long will it take for the gladiators to reach the arena and set up what they planned? According to Hirius, they're traveling to Morin, and then coming to Gisel in a merchant ship, hiding in crates. They would reach Gisel in 4 days. And Senator Viridius will be waiting for them with 100 Spartan soldiers. They are walking into a perfect trap, said Gaia. Maxine, you'll be assigned to Caius' personal maid. Stay by his side and make sure everything goes according to the plan. I assume we are going back to the camp. Gaia stood up with Michael. He had already left a teleportation rune, so he could teleport back and forth. Considering this was nighttime, many in the camp were asleep, which made walking into the campsite less noticeable. Midnight came as perfect black, the true companion of every good night. The dark night was supposed to bring calmness to the soul, yet to Tiberius, the calmness, the cricket noises, as well as the cold breeze, only kindled the anger flame within him. Tiberius tried to vent his anger out on a tree by punching it as hard as he could. Because of his condition, no matter how hard he tried to punch the tree, his weak muscles didn't give him the power he needed. He then took out the dagger from the waist, trying to slash the tree, but he barely scraped the tree. Although he couldn't clearly see the mark on the tree, he was able to see how shallow the cut was by feeling the bark. Damn you! Pulch! Tiberius couldn't control his anger anymore as he slashed his left arm with the dagger. The dagger was extremely sharp as it made a deeper cut in his arm than it did to the tree. The blood gushed out of the cut. His anger overcame the pain. Having it rough, Suddenly Tiberius heard a voice coming from the woods. He looked around to see nothing but darkness. He was standing here outside the campsite. This place was supposed to be empty. Come out, with a wounded arm, he shouted at the darkness. I came bearing a gift for you, Tiberius. Tiberius saw a pair of red glows slowly approaching him from the darkness. Chapter 277. Tiberius ignored the blood gushing out of the wound in his hand. His eyes were fixed on the red glows approaching him slowly from the woods. Gradually Tiberius could make out a figure of a human with the help of little moonlight coming through the thick canopy above. Hello, Tiberius. A small orb of light appeared in between them to light the surroundings. Tiberius was stunned by the light as he had never seen a floating orb of light in his life before. The pair of red glows disappeared after the light appeared. Soon Tiberius saw another figure walking out of the darkness dragging a man whose head was covered in black cloth. Both of the figures wore black skull masks to cover their faces. Your gift. Before Tiberius could do or say anything, the second figure standing behind the tall figure kicked the man as he slid towards Tiberius. Tiberius cautiously looked between the figure wiggling at his feet and the two figures standing a couple of meters in front of him. He had so many questions running through his mind, pushing those questions to the corners of his mind. He slowly placed his hand on the black cloth to remove it. His blood flowed to the person's black cloth, drenching it. Go on. Michael knew about Tiberius' condition, so he patiently waited for him to take off the cloth from Hirius' head. Tiberius grabbed the cloth, removing it to see a bloodied, swollen face. Despite the face being bruised, bloodied, and swollen to the point that it's hard to recognize him, Tiberius was able to identify him. His body began to shiver the moment he saw the face. It was not because of his condition, it was because of the overwhelming anger burning inside him. 2 years ago, it was Hirius who stabbed Tiberius in the back, causing his muscles to lose strength with time. Besides, although Tiberius was not best friends with Titus and Optimus, he respected them as gladiators. Titus and Optimus both fought Tiberius before their 50th battle that was supposed to earn them their freedom. Tiberius accepted the defeat like a champion because he was a soldier before becoming a gladiator. Hence he valued honor. What they did to Optimus and Titus was not honorable. It was that day Tiberius realized that there's no honor among nobles, and there's no difference between a gladiator and a slave. When he was a gladiator, he was drowned in women, glory, adrenaline rush, and attention. They kept him from realizing the state he was in, a slave, just like everyone else. In addition to Hirius, he was angry with himself for being so damn stupid. Hirius. Hirius frantically struggled to escape, but his hands and legs were tied with ropes, making it easy for Tiberius to have his revenge. Tiberius kicked Hirius in the gut before getting on top of him with his dagger raised high. Looking at the dagger with eyes full of horror, Hirius began to struggle more and more frantically. He could see the killing intent in Tiberius' eyes and tell what's about to happen. Tiberius let out a mad cry before going berserk on Hirius. He slashed Hirius as Hirius' muffled cries began to sound wilder and wilder. The blood gushed out of Hirius with each cut. Michael saw nothing but mad anger within Tiberius' eyes. Tiberius' condition made each cut shallower than he intended. Therefore, Hirius was put through the torture that slowly took his life. Tiberius saw Hirius' light of life gradually dimming in his eyes. Nonetheless, Tiberius' speed of slashing him didn't even slow a bit. Michael and Gaia patiently waited for Tiberius to finish without batting an eye. As far as they were concerned, Hirius deserved nothing less. After all, Hirius tortured and killed hundreds of slaves for fun and pleasure. After inflicting hundreds of cuts on Hirius, Tiberius was bathed in blood. "I thought he'll feel better," Tiberius said after spitting the blood that went into his mouth when slashing Hirius. "Who are you two freaks?" Tiberius turned his gaze towards Michael and Gaia. "We are building an army and we want you in it." "Humph," Tiberius snickered. "You may have not noticed, but I'm done being someone's bitch a long time ago." "You aren't one now?" Michael questioned him, aiming to kindle Tiberius' anger more. "I'm not going to stand here and give you a golden speech. Instead, I'll give you an option to regain everything you're desperate for. You don't know me." Tiberius gritted his teeth. "I know enough to know you're losing strength in your limbs." Tiberius was surprised as Michael continued. "You want to fight but you know you can't anymore. Soon, you'll be of use to no one here and die dreaming of your golden days." "Well, freak, I appreciate your gift, I really do, but unless you have a miracle drug hiding in that armor of yours, you're wasting your time." Michael heard Gaia gritting her teeth. It was obvious she wanted to beat the hell out of Tiberius for calling him a freak. "Calm down," he whispered. "There is if you accept my offer for a few seconds." Tiberius' eyes went wide in shock. A small glimmer of excitement and hope emerged in his eyes, but it disappeared soon. Michael expected this reaction from him. According to Heimberg, there wasn't a cure for Tiberius' condition, at least not one in the southern continent. Since the healing potions had trace amounts of arch energy within them, and any arch energy would be absorbed by the dormant hydra in the southern continent, the healing potion would be useless to Tiberius unless the healing potion brewed by Michael with a few adjustments from the system. "This is gonna sting." Before Tiberius could react, he felt a sting in his neck. "Fuck!" He quickly slapped the neck where he felt a sting like swatting a mosquito to feel a needle sticking out of his neck. "How do you feel?" Tiberius clenched his fist. Playfully pinched Zanali's cheek. A short snort of laughter escaped his mouth in utter surprise and joy. He could feel the strength returning to his arms. "This is just a tip of what I can do, Tiberius. If you want to kill more sons of bitches like Hirius and live your dreams, this is your chance." Tiberius looked at Michael in a new light. "Time to make a decision, Tiberius." Tiberius was more surprised to hear a voice of a girl from the masked figure. "What you just gave me, is it permanent? When I'm sure you're loyal to me, I'll give you the permanent cure. But know this, I'm not forcing you, and one of my goals is to eradicate slavery, so you won't be a slave like you were before. What I'm giving you is a choice. Are you willing to be my soldier?" Well, fuck it. The feeling of his strength returning was too much to let go of. He wanted the feeling to last forever. Besides, these figures brought Hirius like he was nothing when Doctorus couldn't even get near the guy without being spotted by the Spartans. "If you can give me this and assholes like him to kill, I do whatever you want." Peyton back at Peyton Manor. Zanali entered the room carrying a stack of parchments. Peyton was sitting on a white couch looking at the starry sky through the glass windows. "Have they caught him?" Peyton didn't even turn back to look at Zanali. She was drowned in the beauty of the star-filled sky. "Not yet, and it's not him, it's her." What she said got Peyton's attention. "A woman? How did you know?" Zanali flicked her wrist as a vial with a few long strands of black hair in it. "Our scholars found that these hairs we found on one of the L marks belong to a woman." Zanali handed over the vial to Peyton. "Why is a woman drawing L marks in various cities and villages?" Zanali sat beside Peyton. "It's either she's an ardent fan of Lucifer, or she has been leaving the marks in the hope of contacting Lucifer. Peyton has been scouring the continent to find Lucifer before he kills more people. She was becoming obsessed with him. In 5 days, the time limit Lucifer offered is coming to an end. The nobles were already in a panic because it was them who did the worst crimes and had reason to be afraid of him. What I don't know is, how is she able to escape our men who are supposed to be on guard? She's skilled enough to do that, which makes catching her difficult, but we're getting closer. In a way, this is an opportunity, Zanali smiled. Opportunity? Yes. If we know about Lucifer, whatever she's doing might have already gotten his attention or will soon. We get her, track her, wait for him to show up, and we nail both of these criminal scums once and for all. Or, her smile grew wider, or we leave our own marks. Lucifer will see them as calling cards and she might see them as a reply from Lucifer. Either way, we'll catch one or both. Peyton nodded approvingly. Get it done. I want this fiasco to end before the tournament begins. And by the way, has Noah returned from his little trip? Peyton pinched Zanali's cheek in a playful manner as Zanali began to blush. He's still at the Rainbow Islands. Chapter 278. Right at the moment, Noah was standing on the edge of Angel's Peak, staring at the fishing village on the island. Stay focused, Noah. I can sense the Dark Lord's presence here. It's faint, but it's there. One would not see anyone else standing beside Noah. Yet someone talked to him. Only Noah could hear the voice. He looked at his ring finger to see the rusty metal ring glowing. We've been searching for this Dark Lord for 2 months, teacher. I think it's time for us to go home. We will. After finding the source of this mysterious power I've been sensing, if Michael was to hear the voice, he would have recognized it as none other than the Supreme Guardian himself. Michael met him when he was inside the treacherous ocean. The Supreme Guardian's soul living inside Noah's ring had no way of connecting with the soul fragment Michael met. Because of that, the Supreme Guardian didn't have any memory of meeting the Dark Lord. However, the Supreme Guardian possessed the ability to sense powerful energy radiation coming from any part of the world. This ability helped Noah find unique treasures of all kinds that helped him cultivate extremely faster than most people in the world. We should ask the mistress of this island about this power directly. I have a feeling that she needs the Witcher Stone to deal with this energy you've been sensing lately. Noah touched the chest pocket to make sure the stone is still there. He traveled to the hidden dwarven village to get this stone. Even the Supreme Guardian didn't know anything about the stone's use. Nonetheless, he told Noah that this stone holds powerful magic. Tread carefully, Noah. The island mistress mustn't know about our true intentions, as she might have already been tainted by the Dark Lord. Teacher, there are people in this world who can't be tainted no matter what. I believe Lady Alden is one of them. Noah had met the wielder of Angel Vina before when he visited the Azer continent. Although she seemed cold and distant, Noah could tell she's a nice person. It had been almost a year since he last saw her. Noah, a gentle voice called him from behind as he turned back to see Johanna walking towards him carrying her Vina. Miss Johanna, when can I meet Lady Alden? Despite the fact the 2 disciples prevented him from entering the cave, he wasn't mad at them as he knew they were doing what their master asked them to. Mistress would like to see you now, follow me. Noah was genuinely surprised by her words. Finally, he could meet her after waiting for a week. The sooner he finds out the source of the power his teacher has been sensing, the better. Wonderful. Noah smiled at Johanna before following her into the cave. Glowing colorful crystals illuminated the cave beautifully. It didn't look like a cave, but a lavish hall in Noah's eyes. Except for the calming water flowing sound coming from somewhere inside the cave, he could hear nothing. The deeper Noah followed her into the cave, the thicker the arch energy he felt. After silently walking behind Johanna for a few long moments, he saw a stage erupted higher from the ground at the end of the cave. On top of the stage sat Layla with her eyes closed and Angel's Vina on her lap. Noah was mesmerized by her angelic beauty. Her beauty and grace even surpassed Alicia. Narita was cleaning her Vina sitting beside Layla. Because of the recent anomaly, Noah couldn't see any of their current cultivation levels. Nonetheless, he could guess either of the disciples could win a fight against him easily. Suddenly Layla opened her eyes as she sensed the Witcher Stone residing inside Noah's pocket. Noah felt the Witcher Stone vibrate. Her beautifully cold eyes scanned him from top to bottom. Although they met before, he saw her looking at him like they're just seeing each other. For a second, Layla thought she saw Ghost, the man who defiled her by spirit walking with her soul. Ever since that day, she was not what she used to be. Now she had responsibility, A responsibility that changed her life forever. Lady Alden, Noah approached the stage calmly with a gentle smile on her face. Layla felt her anger erupt inside as Noah reminded her of Ghost. Name your price for the stone. Since Noah reminded of Ghost, she was extra cold towards Noah. No price, Lady Alden. Take this as my thanks to you for helping me in Azair. I sense a powerful energy radiation near her. Noah heard his teacher's voice sound inside his head. The ring had a magical effect that connected both Noah and the Supreme Guardian telepathically. Hence, they could communicate using either words or telepathically, just like Michael and the system. You need to get closer to her. It's not going to be easy, teacher, Noah thought. Take this. Layla flicked her wrist as a rather plain-looking talisman appeared in her hand. Like a bolt of lightning, the talisman flew to Noah. The talisman can be activated 3 times. Each time you activate it, the talisman will protect you for 5 minutes from any spells cast by anyone on or under the soul refining stage. Standing beside Noah, Johanna explained the use of the talisman to Noah. He was taken aback by surprise. This sounded like a legendary talisman, yet she gave it to him like it was nothing. With this talisman, one could challenge a soul refiner and live to tell the tale, or sell it on any auction house and live the rest of the life like a king. Now the stone, please, Johanna asked, placing the talisman in Noah's right hand. Her voice sounded like ordering rather than asking. Noah needed to think quickly before they threw him out of the cave. The Witcher stone must transferred ownership. Master Cratch transferred ownership to me, and if Lady Alden wants to use the stone, I need to transfer ownership to her. Noah lied, hoping none of them could call it a bluff. Considering the dwarves or even his teacher didn't know anything about the stone, he gambled that they would be as clueless as everyone else. Layla stared at Noah with perplexed eyes. You can do whatever you want from where you are. After what happened with Michael, Layla never let a man get close to her. Since Noah was somewhat reminded of Ghost, she wanted out of her cave as soon as possible. Forgive me, Lady Layla, but it cannot be done from here. Noah sighed a heave of relief inside, seeing that she didn't see through his lies. Make her believe, Noah. Make her believe. His teacher's voice sounded again inside his head. If anyone who isn't the owner touches the stone, it would crumble into dust. Layla clenched her wrist as she drew a long breath. I need that stone for my child, Layla thought. Her heartbeat started to rise higher and higher. Come, Johanna nodded after hearing Layla. The 2 disciples had no idea what happened inside the treacherous ocean, or what she's been hiding from them. Apart from Layla, only her teacher knew about her secret, and he was the one who told her about the Witcher stone. I cannot keep this facade for longer, teacher. Noah hid the unease in his heart from showing on his face. You don't have to. The moment you get close enough, I can find the source. I have a feeling that this source might give us some answers on how to defeat the Dark Lord. There were no steps to reach the top of the stage. When Noah was about to leap, Johanna grabbed his hand before leaping onto the stage. Layla remained still as before, but Noah noticed her hands slightly shiver as he walked towards her. Little bit closer, the Supreme Guardian said. Both Noah's and Layla's hearts pounded against their chest. Noah was anxious about lying to one of the most powerful entities in the continent, while Layla was anxious about starting the ritual that would keep her child alive until she finds a way to deal with Ghost. You can now start the transfer. Noah nodded as he sat on the ground half a meter away from her, facing her directly. Both of them avoided looking into each other's eyes. Layla had a traumatizing experience with a man before, so she felt extremely uncomfortable sitting in front of Noah. Noah slowly took the Witcher stone from his pocket. The stone looked like a ruby, radiating a faint red light from within. He placed the stone on the ground between them. Close your eyes. Noah waited for Layla to close her eyes. She seemed reluctant at first, but she ultimately closed her eyes after a while. Teacher, Noah urged his teacher to hurry. The 2 disciples were watching them, so he needed to finish his drama as quickly as possible before they started to doubt him. The energy source, it's inside her. Sorry guys, I was so focused on doing things I don't love and missed doing what I love the most. It took me a while to find the strength needed to follow my passion instead of doing what others ask of me. I quit my internship and decided to become a full-time writer. So good news, expect 2 to 3 chapters a day from November. And I hope you guys stick with me and continue to support my work. Note: No, this is not going to be yet another MC has a child with another woman, takes her into harem or do stupid things for his child. In fact, this is not a typical child as you may think. Wait till you hear the full story before going berserk on me. Chapter 279. Having no idea of what's happening in the Rainbow Islands, Michael was lying on Gaia's lap in the captain's cabin, as she ran her fingers through his hair. The Hydra was peacefully sleeping on his chest after a hearty meal. The captain's cabin now looked completely different than before. His crew scrubbed every inch of the cabin spotless before placing the new sofas, chairs, beds, and beautiful candle stands made of pure silver around the room. Not only the captain's cabin but the entire ship was scrubbed spotless. They placed the rum barrels in the storage room rather than keeping them wherever they pleased. Still, Michael needed to buy them new beds, repair the cannons and the hull as well as buy them new weapons. He was planning to do them before leaving back to Elon. In addition to the time limit he gave to the scumbags, the championship tournaments were about to start in 5 days. Thanks to his runic teleportation function, he could travel between the 2 continents instantly rather than spending months traveling. I've been wanting to ask you something, Michael asked. What is it? You know when I said I'm going to reveal myself at the arena? I'm reconsidering it. At first, Michael wanted to reveal his Lucifer persona to the world. The fact that he could use arch energy would have made him earn a load of badass points without a doubt. However, after giving it a deep thought, he started to have second thoughts. I assume you have a good reason for having second thoughts. She didn't look surprised. On the contrary, she seemed like she was expecting this. If we were to reveal ourselves, we might become the #1 target of the whole world. If they waged war on Giselle to capture us, we cannot fight them all with the little time we have to use the arch energy. Besides, we don't have an army as we planned yet, and Giselle would automatically become the target of others, and everyone will know that Caius is our man. As Michael paused, Gaia went on. Why didn't you say anything before? She spoke his mind, yet he wondered why she didn't advise him against revealing themselves before. Because I trust you. I learned that no matter what you do, you always have a reason behind it. Not to mention you will end up getting your ass kicked if you reveal yourself too soon. Suddenly he heard the system mock him inside his mind. He was surprised to the point he entered the system interface to talk to the system. Well, look who's showing up to the party. Don't worry. I'll talk when I want to stop you from doing reckless things. Revealing your power to the Southerners for an instance. And here I'm thinking you want me to show off, earn badass points, and spend buying something from the store. You're no good to me, dead host. Revealing yourself at the arena would put a target on you. A target every godlike existence in this world would hunt you down. Why didn't you say so before? The system became more and more intelligent and less robotic after he upgraded the system to version 3. Michael had a feeling that it would become more talkative. Also, the system now mostly addressed itself using the word I and me instead of the system. I was looking to know your decision. Face it, host, you were an assassin who had one simple job: kill people. Now you're on a path to conquer this world and rule it from the shadows. It's not your domain, you'll make mistakes. Besides, ruling the world from the shadows is more badass than becoming an emperor. Upgrade me so I can be more help. There it is. For a moment, I thought you genuinely want to help me, not rob me. Michael laughed as the system went silent. He exited the system's interface after a few moments. So let's change our plan. Instead of showing up to burn those fuckers, we'll let the rebels finish their job safely. Then we'll make sure they reach our ship unseen, and get the hell out of Giselle. Gaia suggested a new plan. Initially, they planned to personally go to the arena, kill Viridius' men and save the rebels. Now the plan had changed. Michael decided to let Tiberius, Heimberg, and Maxine deal with Viridius' men. Has Heimberg placed the spiders around the arena yet? Michael asked Gaia. It was Heimberg's task to survey the arena and place the spiders around as well as below the arena, so Michael could watch everything happening at the arena without being there. According to Hirius, the rebels were planning to place explosives beneath the arena where the explosives would do maximum damage. Yet the spiders are in the place, but he couldn't find where Viridius was staying. His daughter's wedding is in 2 days, yet that asshole is playing hide and seek. He's definitely planning something. Tell him to keep searching. I want all the senators on the same stage, or our plan won't work. Michael looked serious. Getting all the senators in one place was a crucial part of his master plan to conquer Jysel. If everything went according to his plan, the kingdom of Jysel would be his when returns to Elon. Meanwhile, in the sewers of Lanercost, a group of men wearing dark robes and hoods was walking through the muddy water. 4 of the men were carrying a large crate while 2 men walked forward, carrying torches to light their path. Their faces could not be seen through the dark hoods they were wearing. Regardless of their robes, one could tell that these men had sturdy muscular bodies looking at their broad shoulders and big biceps. Are we near Doctorus? One of the men carrying the crate asked. They were the chosen gladiators who came to Lanercost to destroy the arena along with slave traders, nobles as well as Lannistas. Yes, Doctorus said with his thick accent. This place stinks to high heaven. The gladiators twitched their noses because of the overwhelming stink coming from the drainage water running on the ground. In addition to the stink, the rats stared at them from the dark corners with their glowing eyes. Most of them would be glad not to hear the rats squeak as they move forward. If I'm right, we're very close to the arena, Mark, the gladiator who knocked down Tiberius said while carrying the torch. The arena above them resembled the Colosseum on Earth. It could hold at least 45,000 spectators. Where people sat in the arena was determined by the Senate. The best seats were reserved for the senators. Behind them were the nobles, scholars, and ranking army officers respectively. A bit higher up sat the ordinary citizens and the soldiers. Since Viridius didn't want peasants to attend the wedding ceremony, he raised the ticket price to enter the arena by several folds. Although none of the commoners could afford to buy the ticket, it was not a big deal for the nobles. Hence, Viridius earned a hefty sum in ticket sales while preventing the commoners from attending the wedding. 2 birds in 1 stone. Not that I'm complaining or anything, but I wonder why didn't the senators put a single guard in this place? Another gladiator who was carrying the crate asked in a husky voice. Because the nobles or the senators don't know about the passage running under the arena. The scholars lost the blueprints and the maps in a fire several decades ago, Mark explained. When I was a little child, the soldiers managed to close many entrances to the sewage system, but not all of them. My grandfather was one of the few people who knew about these passages, Doctorus said. Then you knew about this passage all these years. So why didn't you try to escape? All the gladiators looked at Doctorus after that question. Perhaps I didn't want to escape, or perhaps I liked kicking your sorry asses. Look at that, Doctorus is being funny, the other gladiators laughed, forgetting the pressure of this mission for a few moments. Although everyone knew that this is a suicide mission, none of them admitted out loudly. After detonating the explosives, they knew they would die in the blast along with the senators and the nobles above them. They were doing this to light the fire of freedom in all the slaves, including the gladiators. If everything went according to their plan, this day would be a huge blow to all the senators who encouraged slavery. After a few minutes of walking, the narrow sewage tunnel expanded in front of them. They were standing at the entrance of a huge space. In the light of the torches, they could see numerous beams in front of them supporting the arena above them. The gladiators were directly under the arena. Doctors could see several entrances with doors made of rusty iron bars. They led to the various places in the arena. As if they wanted to get to the spectators' area, they could use the ladders to climb up. But Doctorus really doubted that the ladders would be still there in one piece after all these years without maintenance. Let's get to work, gladiators. Chapter 280. On the day of the wedding ceremony, Viridius was staring at Giselle's map. There were no chandeliers to light the room, or any fancy sofas suited for a senator's room. He was not in his room in his manor though. The walls had only one thing hanging, the map. There were no pictures of him, no expensive paintings, nothing. It was Viridius. The map and his throne could be seen in the room. The room was Viridius' fantasy. The 5-foot chair he was sitting on, he made it himself. He decorated the entire chair with gems, etched the chair's arms with gold and diamonds. He saw the chair as his throne instead of a chair. One could simply sell the chair for millions. The room was located in Krilta, beneath one of the houses in the noble district. For years, he was planning to take over Jysel from here. I'm the ruler of Giselle, Viridius said as a smile in between happy and evil appeared on his face. He had been repeating these words for nearly 20 years. After speaking these words, he stood up before walking towards the map. He framed the map with gold frames and high-quality glass. The glass reflected a wrinkly old man in his early 80s. He covered his bald head with a few stripes of white hair. Coupled with his hunched back, lack of 3 front teeth, and convex nose, he looked like an evil grandpa from a children's storybook. While staring at the map, he took a drinking pouch made of leather. His hands shivered due to old age while lifting the pouch towards his mouth. After he finished drinking from the pouch, his wrinkles slowly began to disappear, returning the glow to his skin once again. In a few moments, he transformed from a wrinkly old man in his 80s to a less wrinkly old man in his early 70s. A small trickle of red liquid flowed down from the corner of his lips. It wasn't wine though, it was blood, human blood. Of course, Viridius had his own team of scholars to experiment and come up with potions to reduce his age as well as many other nefarious things. No one except him knew that some of the underground labs that experiment on slaves and cultivators belonged to Viridius. In fact, there was one lab in Penn Town that belonged to Viridius where some scholars experimented on Arius brothers. Creak. Suddenly the door behind Viridius creaked open. He turned back with a grin to see his daughter in a wedding dress walking towards him. Even in the dim light illuminated from the candles lit on the room's corner, the white wedding dress sparkled like stars in the midnight sky. Tiny gems, diamonds, and grains of gold decorated the dress just like his throne. A girl with an oval-shaped face smiled at Viridius. The thin veil covering her face failed to cover her purple-colored lips or the dark eyeliners. The bride wants her groom papa. The girl pouted, yet her tone wasn't of a worried bride. Instead, she sounded amused. The Gisel will soon be your groom pool, baby girl. The girl walked slowly towards Viridius. She then faked a frown. Too bad, I really liked Hirius. She put her arms around Viridius, joining him to stare at the map. Too bad he's dead. But don't worry, I'm planning the biggest fireworks this kingdom has ever seen as a token of apology for killing your groom. Viridius gently patted her hand on his shoulder. Speaking of killing, hey, race your refill. The girl put her hands inside her corset to pull out a leather pouch just like the one in Viridius' hand. Rather than handing it over to him, she opened up the cap before placing it into her father's mouth. She slowly fed him the blood. She was one of the scholars who's running the experiments. Only a few people knew about her experiment and talent. It took her years of experiments on slaves and rogue cultivators to find the formula to brew the potion. Nonetheless, she knew the formula is far from perfect. Currently, the potion would temporarily make the drinker younger. However, it had the side effect of fastening the aging process. Hence, Viridius looked like he was in his 80s when he was actually 50 years old. I want Caius alive, Papa. I heard he found something. It could be the piece I'm missing to perfect this formula. A glimmer of delight emerged in Viridius' old eyes. He turned to look at his daughter. You can play with him. I'll arrange for him to be taken to one of your labs discreetly. As Viridius was talking with his daughter, he felt the communication stone in one of his robe pockets vibrate. Feeling the vibrations, the girl put her hands on his pocket to retrieve the stone for her father. The blue stone shone as it vibrated. She gently held it in her hand for her father to speak. Lord Viridius, a voice came from the stone. Speak. It's done, the person from the other side spoke. Meet me at the usual place tomorrow. The payment will be there, Viridius said. It's nice doing business with you, Senator. The stone soon lost its glimmer, indicating that the communication had ended. Send the cleanup crew. After she put the stone back into his pocket, Viridius calmly ordered his daughter. No loose ends, she chuckled evilly. She was just as cruel and ruthless as her father. In her life, there were only 2 important things, her father and her drive to find a cure for death. Only a few southern continent-born people were able to cultivate after settling in the cultivation continents. Yet none of them could live past the body refining stage. Knowing the statistics, she decided to change their body from within to adapt to cultivating. She had experimented on hundreds of lives to imbue arch energy in a cultivator's blood, without losing the energy after crossing the void line. I can make you cultivate, shorty, but you have to quit drinking. Think you can do that? Instead of sleeping on the bed in his room, Michael was outside with the crew. He was looking at the sun rising on the horizon while talking with Shorty and Gibson. "Come on, Captain. I want to do all the cool stuff you do." Michael never thought Shorty would come to him, pleading to make him a cultivator. The idea of Shorty being a cultivator amused Michael. Michael did not completely cut him off. "I bet you do. But as I said, first go without drinking for a month and you'll think about it." The other pirates were laughing at Shorty. They found the thought of Shorty casting spells the funniest thing they had ever imagined. Shorty heard the sound of them laughing, yet he seemed adamant about becoming a cultivator, which surprised Michael. At first, he thought Shorty wasn't serious, but that thought began to change. "Captain, if I do that, will you make me a cultivator?" Shorty tucked Michael's sleeves. Michael looked down at Shorty. For the first time, he saw a serious look on Shorty's face. "Quit nagging Lord Lucifer, you idiot." Gibson tried to interfere, yet his shout didn't even make Shorty bat an eye. Michael raised his hand as Gibson quickly shut his mouth. "All right, I'll give you a chance. Go without booze for a month and I'll make you a cultivator." "Really? You promise?" Shorty's face brightened up like someone lit a candle inside his head while his eyes sparkled with excitement. "What the hell? You got my word." Michael sighed as he promised Shorty. He was going to make all of his men cultivators anyway. "And it's Lord Lucifer, Shorty." They turned back to see Gaia walking towards them. She didn't wear any skull masks to hide the frown on her face. Noticing the frown, Michael knew something serious came up. "Gibson, get the crew ready and set the course for Jysel." "Yes, Lord Lucifer." Aye, Captain Lord." "Lord Lucifer." Gibson addressed Michael as Lord Lucifer while Shorty addressed him as Captain. No matter how hard Shorty tried, he couldn't address Michael as Lord Lucifer. Still, Shorty was trying and Michael could tell he would learn soon. "What is it?" Michael climbed down the stairs to enter his room with Gaia. "I have good news and bad news." The good news, Heimberg and Tiberius found where they might have gone. Gaia rubbed her temples as she spoke. "And the bad? They might have brought their own explosives to blow the shit up." Michael realized why she had the frown. Heimberg already planted the explosives he bought from the system around the place where the senators would sit. The explosives were planted carefully to blow up the senators, but not all of them. If the gladiators brought their own explosives hoping to blow up the arena, the power of the explosion would be doubled, killing every single senator, including Caius. In addition to that, if the explosives the gladiators brought were powerful, the blast could kill Tiberius, Heimberg, and Maxine along with all the nobles. Michael knew killing nobles might look like cleaning up the city, but it would cripple the economy. The nobles were the backbone of the kingdom's economy, so killing them was equal to crippling the kingdom. If Michael were to destroy Jysel, he would have let the gladiators blow up the nobles. Since his plan was to use Jysel as his first step to conquer this world and earn gold coins, he had to stop them. Chapter 281, Where is Heimberg and Tiberius now? Michael asked. His voice was serious, yet he remained calm. There was no expression except calmness on his face. "Here," Gaia pointed at the far south side of Jysel where the city border meets the ocean. "It's where the sewage opens and I'm not coming in," she firmly said. The last thing she would do was rummage through their sewage. "I'm not planning to take you with me. You make sure the senators are in their places as we are planned. If I didn't give you the signal by the time, save Caius and Maxine from the explosion first. And if you can, I can't believe I'm saying this, save the nobles." Michael let out a peal of tired laughter. The nobles were indeed important, but not as important as Caius or Maxine. Of course, he planned to subdue the gladiators before they could blow up the arena using their own explosives. Nonetheless, he always liked to have multiple plans. "Go, Heimberg and Tiberius will meet you at the entrance," Michael nodded. "And try not to stink more when you return," she laughed. "I'll bring a bucket of sewage water for you to bath." "You go fuck yourself, you gross bastard," before she could throw something at him. A bright light enveloped him. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared from the room. Michael appeared in a dark alley behind a 3-story building. The alley was located near the docks. He marked this place when he was staying in the city. Instead of walking towards the place where Heimberg and Tiberius were waiting for him, Michael cast the lightning dash to take off from the ground. In a few seconds, he was in the air above everyone and everything else. He could see the ships coming in and out of the docks. The sun was halfway above the horizon. The sparkling blue ocean had golden light decorating it as a gem on a crown. Calming ocean wind brushed past Michael while his raven-black hair fluttered in the wind, making his hair look messier and messier. Michael willed the system to equip his Lucifer armor with a mask. In a flash, he completely transformed himself into Lucifer except for the black cloud and the red eyes. Meanwhile, at the sewage entrance, Heinberg and Tiberius were waiting for Michael. The sewage entrance was a large circular hole, with a few iron bars. Most of the iron bars were corroded, leaving plenty of space for someone to enter the sewage. The entrance was located under a bridge which gave enough darkness for the two of them to avoid detection by soldiers. "So how long have you been working for them?" Tiberius asked, leaning on the brick wall. Heinberg was watching around to see if anyone's coming when he heard Tiberius' question. "Couple of weeks." Tiberius arched his brows as he was surprised. "For a guy who has been doing this for a couple of weeks, you seem pretty loyal to them." "Fear." Instead of giving Tiberius a long answer, Heinberg uttered only a word. "Fear." "Well, if I saw someone fly like a bird and use magic inside the void line, it'd freak me out too." Tiberius shrugged. "You've only seen a glimpse of what they can do." Tiberius wasn't interested in what they had done. He was more interested in what they could do to this godforsaken continent. "Do you think they could do what the rebels are trying to do?" "I don't think I know. They will change the fate of this continent for better or worse." "Whoa!" As they were speaking, Tiberius saw a dark figure suddenly land before the sewage entrance. He recognized the armor, yet this was the first time Tiberius saw Michael with his skull mask on. "Let's go find your friends." Without wasting a second, Michael leaped from the ground to enter the sewage tunnel. Like an obedient servant, Heinberg climbed up the sewage entrance following Michael. Tiberius entered lastly. Giarichh. Heinberg thought the stink outside was overwhelming, but compared to the inside, the outside stink was nothing. He had to cover his nose while following Michael. When Michael entered the dark forest with Gaia, he was poisoned with fear toxin. This lesson taught Michael to design his mask to filter toxins, poisons, and any particles that could harm him. With the inventor trait, his knowledge in alchemy, and a few parts from the system, he was able to build a mini filtration device inside his mask. Fortunately, the mask filtered most of the stink, but not completely. The further they walked into the tunnel, the less they saw what's in front of them. There was no torture or holes in the ceiling for the sunlight to come through. Hence, Michael had to conjure an orb of light to lighten the path. The red orb of light soon made everything clear for Tiberius and Heinberg. While moving forward, Michael was searching for footprints, yet he couldn't see one because the sewage water cleared any footpaths or evidence of the gladiators who walked the path before. After walking for a few minutes, Michael finally saw a crumbled wall. The brick wall had a hole large enough for a few men to walk side by side. "They used some kind of explosion to blow this hole," Heinberg told Michael. "A mini version of it anyways. We are still below the streets. If the explosion wasn't a small one, the soldiers would have felt the shake and come to check. That means there's someone with knowledge in explosions was with them." Tiberius seemed like he has just realized something. "That son of a bitch Mark. Before he was a gladiator, he worked as a bodyguard for a scholar who specialized in explosives. He bragged about this when he was drunk." Thinking about Mark made Tiberius' blood boil in anger. Ever since his limbs started to shake due to the wound he suffered in the hands of Hyrieus, Mark tried to undermine him every chance he got. After Titus, Optimus and Tiberius, Mark wiggled himself onto Doctorus' side. Tiberius always felt a bad vibe from Mark. "We have to stop them from blowing shit up if you want your plan to work." Michael let in Tiberius with his plan, because he wanted everyone to be up to speed for the plan to work. Michael pointed his finger towards the hole, as the orb of light flew into the hole, lighting the path. Michael could see there are numerous paths branching out at the end of the tunnel. "Shit," Tiberius cursed. Michael was prepared for this. That was why he brought some friends. Tiberius and Heinberg expected Michael to enter the hole searching for the gladiators. However, instead of stepping into the hole, Michael willed the system as several tiny drones appeared in front of him. The drones produced a faint humming sound as they moved into the hole. Neither of them had ever seen such things before in their lives. They just stared at the drones disappearing into the darkness with their mouths slightly open. Michael closed his eyes for a second when the drones reached the junction where there were 7 branching out tunnels ahead of the drones. He had a total of 14 drones. He sent 2 drones in each tunnel. The drones traveled extremely fast. Controlling all of them at once took a toll on his brain as he began to feel a slight headache. Ignoring the headache, he completely focused on controlling the drones. Each tunnel was long, dark, and inhabited by nothing but rats and spiders. The drones flew cutting through the spiderwebs like a hot knife through butter. Michael abruptly opened his eyes when he saw a dead body through the drone he sent into the 5th tunnel. "Follow me." Michael stopped controlling a few drones to free his mind. He then walked into the tunnel towards the 5th tunnel, where he found the dead body. "Did you find something?" After seeing Michael choose this particular tunnel from the 7 tunnels, Tiberius wondered why. "Yes, a dead body." Tiberius felt a chill running through his spine. Despite his disagreements with the gladiators, he respected all the gladiators and people who had the guts to rebel against their masters. Furthermore, he knew the gladiators who came here to blow up the arena would be the core group including Doctorus. He wouldn't call the core group his friends, yet the thought of one of them might be dead created a bad feeling in his gut. After a few minutes of walking, the 3 of them began to vaguely see the dead body in the distance. The orb of light illuminated the body as well as the bloodstains on the wall. Michael looked around for any booby traps left by the killer. They couldn't see the face but only the stab wound on the back as the face was facing the ground. The dead one was tall. Numerous paths are branching at least 6 feet 5 inches. He had a muscular body with old burn marks on his body. In addition to the scars, under the orb of light, Michael could see that the man was black. No, it can't be." Tiberius rushed at the body, splashing sewage water all around him. He immediately knelt beside the body, ignoring the sewage water before turning the body. Doctorus. Chapter 282. Michael didn't say anything, but he was indeed surprised. He heard Tiberius talk about Doctorus when he asked him about the slave rebellion. The man trained some of the best gladiators in the southern continent, including Titus and Optimus. It was a pity to find this man dead. Michael planned to recruit him and make him train his own personal army of gladiators. "Come on, wake up, old man." Tiberius shook Doctorus' body frantically. "Do something." "He's dead, Tiberius. Someone stabbed him in the back." Michael pointed out the stab wound in the back. "We might catch whoever did this when we meet the other gladiators. Let's hope they're alive." Tiberius just realized that whoever killed Doctorus might have gone to kill the rest of them. Still, Tiberius couldn't believe a single man could have killed Doctorus. As far as he knew, it would take 10 gladiators to even wound Doctorus, let alone kill him. In anger and shock, Tiberius failed to see the simple yet most correct conclusion. The drone hovering above them flew further into the tunnel, searching for the gladiators while Tiberius stood up carrying Doctorus' body in his arms. "I'll not leave him in this stinking hell." "Well, give him a proper burial," Michael said before following the drone's path. Finding Doctorus dead made Michael speed up things. He drove the drone as fast as the drone could fly. It was obvious to Michael that someone among the gladiators was a traitor. Lord Lucifer. As they were walking, Heimberg called Michael. "Speak. Isn't it dangerous for us to walk into a place that's filled with explosives? Whoever killed him might have booby-trapped it to explode." Tiberius was too drowned in anger and grief to listen to Heimberg. He just walked behind them carrying Doctorus' body. All of his moments with Doctorus flashed across his eyes. He was dead for at least 3 hours. That's plenty of time to set off the explosives if he wanted to. And if I'm right, he won't be there with the gladiators. "Why do you say that?" Tiberius asked. Speaking of the killer brought Tiberius back from his flashbacks. He wanted to rip the throat off of the one who killed Doctorus. Tiberius promised himself and Doctorus that he would avenge him. He was stabbed in the back, which means Doctorus trusted this person to turn his back and drop his guard. The traitor stabbed him in the back, killed him, and it's highly unlikely that he returned to the gladiators. If he had, they would have definitely asked where Doctorus is and come searching for him. Michael abruptly stopped talking when he found the gladiators. They were gathered at a spacious hall, where he could see several pillars going into the ceiling. 6 gladiators ahead, Michael fastened his steps. Eventually, after walking for 15 minutes, they saw the tunnel open up to a spacious hall. Several torches were lit around the hall to reveal the long pillars, as well as a few sacks. Someone's coming. Who else would be coming other than Doctoress? What was he doing out there? Give the man a break, this is our last day. What's that sound? The gladiators began to murmur, hearing the footsteps. Despite the drone flying above them and it's very silent, the gladiators still heard the faint humming sound it produced. Only because the drone was flying from one dark spot to another managed to evade their eyes. Guys, the gladiators looked closer at the tunnel to see the orb of light. Soon, they became agitated seeing Michael walking out of the darkness. His full armor and the skull freaked them out. Yet, they were quick enough to draw their swords out. Stand down. Tiberius' shout reverberated the hall. I heard that voice before. It's Tiberius. The 6 remaining gladiators saw Tiberius walk out of the darkness. For a moment, the gladiators couldn't recognize Tiberius. It was because Tiberius wore a new plate armor with his long hair tied into a ponytail. Michael asked Heimberg to buy ready-made armor from a forge in Krilta for Tiberius. It was a temporary measure until he returned to Elon, made Jack his blacksmith, and crafted custom-made armor for all of his subordinates. Tiberius. All the gladiators' faces lit up seeing Tiberius, but within a snap of time, their smiles disappeared from their faces. Who did this? Tiberius was not in the mood for a happy reunion. His eyes were blood red. He was basically shivering in anger. Michael and Heimberg could feel the killing intent radiating from Tiberius. Michael stared at the gladiators one by one. There were 6 gladiators in front of them. All of them were between 6 feet and 6 feet 5 inches tall with muscular bodies. The commonality between all of them was the burn marks and the scars on their bodies. What? Doctoress, the gladiators mumbled in shock. Their weapons were raised halfway, looking at Tiberius. Deal with them, I'll take care of the explosives. Michael saw the white clay attached to each pillar. Sensing the heat coming from the clay through his eyes of darkness, he recognized them as the explosives set by Mark. Is Mark here? While walking towards the first pillar a couple of meters in front of Michael, he asked the gladiators. The gladiators couldn't care less about the explosives after seeing Doctorus' body. They all knelt beside his body, overwhelmed with grief. Where is he? Tiberius put Doctorus' body on the ground, looking around for Mark, yet he couldn't see him. He was with Doctorus, do you think? One of the gladiators asked Tiberius. They knew Tiberius well enough to know that Tiberius wouldn't harm his mentor. Hence, they never doubted Tiberius of killing Doctorus, but Mark was another story. Despite Mark's effort to get onto Doctorus' side replacing Tiberius, most of the gladiators didn't trust him as they trusted Tiberius. Of course, many disliked Tiberius due to his quick temper, arguments he had with Doctorus, and cold demeanor, yet they didn't make Tiberius any less trustworthy. He was stabbed in the back. Mark wanted to see the sunrise one last time. We don't know why, but after a few minutes he left. Doctorus went looking for him. Tiberius' killing intent skyrocketed hearing the gladiators. It became more and more evident that Doctorus was killed by Mark. He only didn't know why Mark killed him. We need to find that son of a bitch. Tiberius took his gaze away from Doctorus' face to Michael, who was staring at the clay mold sticking on a pillar. I'll rip that bastard to shreds. He's mine. Fuck blowing up the arena. We need to kill that snake. The gladiators were riled up. They passed the grieving stage to reach the stage where they felt nothing but the pure rage of a gladiator. I have an idea who knows where he is, Michael said. The white clay sticking on the pillar before him seemed nothing special in the naked eyes. At first, Michael thought he would want to ask the system's help to diffuse, but he was wrong. The white clay was a chemical compound, which meant it related to alchemy. Combined with his knowledge of alchemy and inventor traits, he began to sense how the explosives were made of and how to diffuse them. With eyes of darkness help, he could see the inside of the clay. Unlike most of the bombs on Earth, there were neither wires nor circuits in the clay. Inside the white clay was a word separated through the center by a liquid. Either side of the liquid was filled with chemical compounds that would create a reaction when coming to contact with each other. The liquid was the substance that prevented the compounds from getting mixed. The white clay covering the orb absorbed this liquid little by little, hence working as a timer. System, I need a syringe filled with coconut oil. 50 badass points. Do you wish to buy it? Yes, the liquid just needed to be non-reactive to either of the substances in the orb. Compared to the liquid already inside the orb, coconut oil was a much better option. In a flash, 2 syringes appeared in Michael's hand. One was filled with coconut oil whereas the other was empty. Michael gently sent the needle of the syringe filled with coconut oil into the line where the liquid was. He pressed the syringe head as the liquid line began to get filled with oil. After refilling the liquid line, Michael sent the needle of the empty syringe through the clay towards one of the substances, before gently squeezing the substance into the empty syringe. It took Michael a couple of seconds to completely remove the substance from the orb. After he took out the chemical compound, there was no substance for the other one to react with. Thus, the explosive was reduced to nothing but slightly hot clay. "You're coming with me." Michael pulled out the clay from the pillar before storing it in his space ring. He wanted to study the explosive further to make some changes to it, so he could use them in the future instead of buying explosives from the system as he did. I split the chapters into 2 to make them interesting and less draggy. Also, the Southern Continent arc is coming to end with a bang. Chapter 283 Morning arrived as a mother's gentle hand, inviting the dreams of the night to enter the day. The sun painted the horizon with golden light. The songs of the early birds sounded better than any music. It could calm anyone's soul. Waking up to the view of the sun rising on the horizon, and the calm sea always soothed Caius' mind. Today was different. Today he was looking at hundreds of nobles gathered around him. Instead of hearing the chirping of the early birds, he heard only the cheers of people who were excited to witness the wedding ceremony of Fabia, the only daughter of Senator Viridius. The arena could simply hold 45,000 people, because the ceremony was meant for only the richest and the powerful. Out of 45,000 seats, only 350 were filled, including the senators. Many nobles from the nearby kingdoms attended the ceremony with their relatives. They were more interested in watching gladiators fight to the death rather than Fabia's wedding. On the elevated stage built for the senators, 8 lavish chairs were arranged in the front line while numerous less fancy chairs occupied the space behind the first line. Among the 7 chairs in the front, 6 were for the senators, 1 for the bride and 1 for the groom. The rest of the chairs were for the senators' family members. Caius was the first senator to come as he wanted to seat himself on the chair where Lucifer told him to. If everything went according to the plan, this day would change his life forever. Caius walked towards the 4th chair from the right. Standing in front of the seat, he ran his finger on the top rail, until he felt a bump in the cushion covering the rail. "Don't worry, Senator, Lord Lucifer, and the Dark Queen will protect you." Maxine entered through the doorway carrying a silver tray with wine cups on top of it. She was assigned as a personal maid, so she had to do these chores to make it look real. The worst part of the job was not serving Caius, but having to wear the ridiculous maid uniform. At least she got permission for Lord Lucifer to wear a large hat that helped her hide her embarrassment. The others are on their way. So look normal. Caius drew a long breath, preparing himself for the big day. As she said, he needed to look normal, or the other senators might get suspicious. Although the senators would look friendly to the public, they all hated each other due to the power struggle between them. They wouldn't raise a finger if there isn't a political benefit for them. The mere thought of getting rid of all of the senators made Caius' blood boil in excitement. Following Lucifer seemed a very good move at this moment. Senator Caius. Caius was just about to reach his hand out to pick a wine glass from Maxine's tray when he heard a familiar voice calling out his name. Maxine turned her head to see a tall man with long brown hair walking towards them with 2 Spartan soldiers. He was thin as a stick. With his wide grin and bony face, he really looked creepy in her eyes. "Senator Quintes," Caius smiled, but anyone could tell the smile was fake as a unicorn. "Looks like you two has beaten me to it." Maxine saw another man walking behind Quintes. Unlike Quintes, he was rather short and chubby. No Spartan soldiers or relatives could be seen accompanying this man. He came walking alone. "Senator Kiso." Yet again the 3 senators exchanged fake smiles. "Where is that giant of yours, Senator?" Quintes asked Caius. He completely ignored Maxine. She could see the contempt in his eyes when he looked at her. "Won't he obstruct the view of the wonderful fights?" Caius said with a small grin on his face. "He certainly will. Senator Kiso said, letting out a short burst of laughter. What did I miss? The three senators saw Senator Selleck approaching them with his 2 wives, 3 children, and 2 fully armor-plated soldiers. He was neither too short nor too tall. His golden hair was short just like one of his wives. The second wife was a redhead with a beautiful hourglass structure. The senator and the golden-haired woman seemed like they were in their late 40s, but the red-haired woman looked much younger. One would guess that she was in her late 20s. The 3 children stayed beside the golden-haired woman. 2 of them were young boys in their late teens while the girl seemed a couple of years younger than them. Look who's here. Senator Aaron's Senator Kiso welcomed the senator's family with a grin. Maxine noticed the genuine smile on Kiso's face. His smile seemed genuine because Senator Aaron's and Kiso were planning to tie the 2 families with a marriage between Kiso's daughters and Aaron's sons. Just like any other continent in this world, marriages were proposed with ulterior motives. They were kind of deals and cared less about the groom and bride's feelings. Even the Winston family arranged a marriage between Noah and Alicia to strengthen their family. Plus, in this world, a man was allowed to marry as many times as he wants. Hence, most of the cultivators and noblemen had a harem of wives. It was extremely rare to see someone like Michael who hated the idea of having a harem of wives. With his reputation and talent, he could have as many beautiful wives as he wants. In addition to his hate towards the harem, Gaia would murder anyone if one wanted to share him with her. So I see him the only one who brought the family, Senator Aarons laughed. The red-haired woman remained expressionless while the others shook hands with the senators before taking their seats. Where is Senator Viridius? He can't be late to his own daughter's wedding. Senator Quintes looked at the doorway expecting Viridius. Speaking of weddings, where are the bride and groom? And is Senator Marcus coming to the ceremony? Senator Kiso asked the senators. I won't be surprised if he didn't show up considering what happened at the gala, Senator Aaron said as the senators except Caius nodded their heads. What Senator Aaron said would have been true if Caius didn't receive any orders from Lucifer. It was Caius' responsibility to bring all the senators to the stage. Senator Caius had to owe Senator Marcus a favor to get him to the marriage. Since these senators wouldn't survive to see the next day, Caius was happy to oblige to Marcus' demands. What the hell are you waiting for? Move your flabby ass and go bring refreshments for everyone. Senator Quintes raised his voice at Maxine. Yes, my lord, forgive me. Maxine quickly lowered her head, hiding her anger from showing on her face. She didn't want to disappoint Lord Lucifer because of Quintus' remarks. Take a seat, gentlemen. Caius gestured at the senators to sit. He didn't budge an inch away from the chair he was supposed to sit on. Are you all right, Senator Caius? The golden-haired woman noticed the few sweat drops appearing on Caius' forehead. Caius knew she is more observant than the rest of them. Still, he was surprised by her question. Why wouldn't I be? It's not like my daughter's wedding. Caius brushed off her question with a joke. Quickly fix your daughter's marriage, Senator Caius. I have some excellent matches for your daughter. I bet you do. The woman chuckled as Maxine returned carrying 2 silver trays with several wine glasses on top of them. While she was serving them, everyone in the arena heard a loud rumbling noise. They looked up to see the airship slowly floating towards them in the sky. This wasn't the first time Maxine saw an airship. The design of the ship was very similar to the blimps on Earth. Instead of helium, the scholars used odril gas. It was produced by heating odril or in extreme heat. The blimp cast a huge shadow on the arena as it was almost 150 feet long, 60 feet high, and 50 feet wide. Despite its enormous size, the blimp could only hold 20 people including 2 pilots and 3 crew members. However, there were airships in the southern continent that could hold more people and fit with weapons for air combat. Senator Viridius is really showing off, Senator Kiso snickered. The blimp continued to move at a snail pace before coming to a halt at the top of the arena. Ding, ding, ding. Right at this moment, loud bell sounds could be heard. Realizing the wedding ceremony had begun, the nobles became silent. On the fighting ground, a woman wearing a red dress walked towards the center. Her dress was extremely revealing. Everyone could see her plump rosy thighs as well as her navel and cleavage. The fighting ground wasn't paved with stone but filled with sand, so the gladiators also had to fight the scorching hot sand on their feet. The woman, however, wore a heel to prevent the hot sand from hurting her feet. She fiddled with her brown hair, while waving her hand at the nobles around her. Her smooth silky skin, oval face, and hourglass structure made the youngsters stare at her without taking their eyes away. She certainly enjoyed this attention. That was why she chose to host gladiator fights despite the blood and gore the fights accompanied. Let's give a loud applause for the bride and our Senator of Defense, Senator Viridius. The nobles cheered, clapping as loud as they could. Soon, the senators sitting on the stage turned their heads back to see Senator Viridius walking towards them with his daughter by his side. Several Spartan soldiers walked behind them as protection, yet all the senators' focus was on the beautiful bride. Her white dress sparkled with gems and gold dust, making the bride look like an angel. Lord Lucifer, everyone's here behind the Spartan soldiers. Maxine noticed a tan-skinned man with no hair on his head walking towards them. He was the last senator they were looking for, Senator Marcus. With his arrival, the first phase of Lucifer's plan was over successfully. Lord Lucifer, they are all here. Chapter 284. Senator Viridius led his daughter to their chairs, which were located right next to Caius. In the power hierarchy of senators, Caius stood at the top with his head of Senate position while Viridius stood only next to him with his position of Senator of Defense. They both held two of the most important ministries of a kingdom, finance and military. The voting for electing senators was one of the important events in any Senate-ruled kingdom. Only noblemen had the right to vote. The number of senators in a kingdom varied from kingdom to kingdom. In Giselle there were 6 senators. Hence, in Giselle, the first 6 candidates with the most votes would become senators. Among them who got the most votes would become the head. The head of the Senate had the power to choose a ministry for himself and assign ministries for the other senators. Caius chose the finance ministry because compared to the rest of the ministries, he could swindle more money in the finance ministry. Defense ministry was the most stressful and problematic one. Therefore, he assigned it to his potential head of Senate candidate, Viridius. Over the years, Caius saw how Viridius is becoming older and older. He rejoiced inside because if Viridius were to die, there wouldn't be any competition for the head position in the future. Pity, Caius said to himself looking at Fabia in her wedding dress. He felt bad for the girl to die on the most important day of her life, her wedding. First of all, let's congratulate Miss Fabia who is about to become Lady Fabia Herius. The girl on the ground had a metal cube on her palm that amplified her voice loud enough to reach everyone in the arena. The nobles whistled and clapped as Fabia kept waving her hand at them. Fabia, Viridius gestured at Fabia to seat herself before sitting beside Caius. While everyone's focus was on the bride and Viridius, Marcus took his seat without causing a ruckus. He sat on the last chair from the right beside Senator Quintes. I don't see the groom, Senator Viridius. Caius leaned towards Viridius. He's taking care of something for me. He'll be here soon, Viridius whispered. Viridius placed a trio of elite killers among Herius' security detail to kill him and the other Spartans. Since Herius didn't make it to the wedding or his spies didn't see Herius coming out of the barracks, he thought the trio managed to do their job. What both Viridius and Caius didn't know was Michael and Gaia killed all of the security detail including the 3 killers placed by Viridius and kidnapped Herius. The trio might be the best killers gold coins could buy, yet in front of Michael and Gaia, they were as weak as babies. At that time, Gaia didn't even notice there were 3 elite killers among them. He better be, it's his wedding after all. Caius was concerned about Herius. He didn't want Herius to escape and use what's about to happen as a trump card in his campaign, if Herius chose to run for Senate. Settle down, my lords, my ladies. It's time to kickstart the celebration. Hoo-hoo. Yeah. Release the beasts. Fight, fight, fight. The nobles began to scream in excitement. Even the noble ladies stood up from their seats. The thrill of seeing gladiators fighting to death made their blood boil. The nobles became addicted to gladiator fights. It was their only entertainment. The nobles' lust for blood made them invest a large sum of their wealth in luduses. Even the small ludus had 20 highly trained gladiators. This was one of the reasons why slavery flourished in the southern continent. The nobles encouraged the Senate to go to war with nearby kingdoms, so the loser citizens would become slaves. From these slaves, strong males could be purchased to become gladiators by various luduses. Almost all the nobles and the rich would attend the yearly gala where they would bid for slaves who had the qualities to become a gladiator. The girl on the ground grinned happily hearing their chant. She then stared at her left and right side. Both sides had 8 feet iron gates. There were totally 6 iron gates around the fighting ground. During big tournaments where 6 gladiators fight to the death, each ludus would send 1 gladiator through 1 gate. They wanted the gladiators to meet each other only on the fighting ground. As seconds passed by, the wind became hotter and hotter above the sand. The wind also revealed the skeletons of various animals such as bison, giant lizards, and lions buried halfway in the sand. One could even see human remains in the sand. The remains served as ornaments for the fighting ground. Some nobles even paid a hefty sum for the dead bodies of gladiators. They preserved various parts of the body, keeping them on a display. We have 2 proud luduses today with us to light up the ceremony. Give your warm welcome for Ludus Tools Bantius Fuscus of Utopia, and Ludus Drusus Vesuvius Arbutus of Lidora. The moment the girl announced the names, the whole crowd went wild. They were 2 of the most prominent luduses in the entire continent. Whoa, did I hear her right? Ludus Tools and Ludus Drusus. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Please let me see Lion Head. Now I see why the ticket was priced this much. This is gonna be awesome. Are they taking bets? Do you think Ludus Tools will let out the Lion Head to fight today? Let's hope they will. The onlookers began to chit-chat amongst themselves. The girl uttered no words, letting the hype build up before revealing the fighters. Even from where she was standing, she could hear the nobles dying to see Lion Head, one of the most decorated gladiators on the continent. Senator Viridius, you really went all in with the ceremony, huh? Senator Ahrens looked very surprised. Without his control, he had a large grin plastered across his face. To say the least, Senator Ahrens was excited to see the gladiators who belonged to the most prominent luduses fight to the death for their entertainment. Fabia, the bride, could barely hold her excitement. To her, the gladiators were an excellent specimen for experiments. After her failures with Titus and Optimus, she was looking for new specimens. If her father's plan went without a hitch, she would have some of the best gladiators to play with in her lab. Don't get too excited, Senator. This is just a glimpse of what I've in store for you today, Viridius smirked. We cannot wait to see. Senator Quintes laughed without having a clue about Viridius' real intention. While the senators were staring at the women on the ground to announce the fighters' names, Viridius retrieved the pocket watch from his toga pocket to check the time. Maxine noticed Viridius checking the time. She knew he was checking the time to leave the stage when it's time for the explosion. As he was looking forward to the explosion, there would be one, just not at the time he was expecting. I won't take any more of your time, my lords, my ladies. Let's open the gates for Sextus, the eye gouger from Ludus Tools. The east side iron gate slowly opened as all the eyes fell on the gateway to see the gladiator striding through the gateway. The gladiator wore nothing but leather boxers with metal bracers and leather boots. He stood 6 feet 4 inches tall. Except for the abs, he had clear muscle definition everywhere else. The half-skull he wore as a hat on his head freaked out some of the people. As he was striding towards the center, he kept licking his bronze mace. The sweet scent of woman's flesh, taking his tongue off of his mace, Sextus licked his own lips staring at the announcer girl. She tried her hardest not to show the discomfort on her face. And from Ludus Drusus, I welcome Lars. The lightning whip. The west side gate slowly creaked open, getting all the attention. Crack, crack, crack. Gradually, they all saw a tall figure walking through the gateway, making cracking sounds along the way. Lars was not as muscular as Sextus, he had a lean body. Instead of a sword or any typical weapon made of metal, he had a long barbed whip in his hand, hence the nickname Lightning Whip. As he was walking towards the center, he kept attacking the ground with his whip. Each time he swung his whip, it produced a high-pitched cracking noise. I thought there'll be more audience, Lars said disappointedly looking around the nobles. It's good for you. Because less crowd means less embarrassment for you when I gouge out those pretty eyes of yours, Sextus taunted Lars. He raised his voice loud enough for the metal box on the girl's palm to amplify his voice. The nobles became excited hearing Sextus. The more blood and gore, the better for the nobles. Fight! 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 The nobles began to chant again as the announcer girl took a step back before the 2 gladiators started to fight. I won't take any more of your time, gentlemen. The battle will begin after the bell sound. It took the girl a couple of minutes to reach the end of the fighting ground. Reaching the end, she opened up the wooden door that revealed stairs to the upper levels where she could see the fight from an elevated position. The two gladiators didn't dare to start fighting before the bell sound. It was prohibited. In the best-case scenario, they would be starved for a week, and in the worst case, they would receive a minimum of 200 whip attacks, starvation for at least 2 weeks, and battle beasts. For gladiators like them, fighting the beasts with starving stomachs was equal to a death sentence. Therefore, they patiently waited for the bell to ring. Human, are you ready to blow this thing up? At that moment, Gaia was watching the two gladiators from the sky. She wore a white dress to blend in with the clouds in case someone looked at the sky. When you're ready, an evil grin emerged on her face after hearing Michael. Chapter 285. Lars and Sextus were standing on the fighting ground's center with a few meters distance between them. The nobles could feel the hot air radiating from the sand in the fighting ground. Coupled with their excitement, they began to sweat more than the gladiators themselves. Ding, ding, ding. Finally, the 3 bell sounds reverberated the arena. The moment the bell sound appeared, the nobles screamed as loud as they could. Crack. Lars immediately whipped his whip at Sextus before leaping back. The whip was effective in long-ranged combat, hence Lars leaped back to create a distance between them. Sextus barely dodged the barbed whip. It scraped the skin off of his shoulder. Getting his skin peeled off was extremely painful, yet Sextus didn't let the pain slow down his movements. The blood splattered on the hot sand, producing a faint shh sound. Lars kept whipping the barbed whip at Sextus, trying to stop Sextus from getting close. Just like his nickname, Lars' whip was lightning speed. Arg, Sextus screamed, not in agony but in anger. The agility of Lars and his quickness of attacking him made Sextus madder and madder. From the battle started, Lars had the upper hand. He was agile, quick, and kept attacking Sextus with deadly accuracy. The nobles were on the edge of their seats. Whoa, Lars is really good. No shit, look at Sextus. All messed up. Why is it that brute not getting close? He's trying but that scrawny one is not letting him. I never thought a whip could be this effective and dangerous. The onlookers had different opinions about the fight. Most of them, however, favored Lars. They were right, as even Gaia, who's hovering in the sky, favored Lars to win the fight if the two gladiators continued to fight. Every one of them could see Sextus slowing down due to the wounds he suffered. Kill! 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 A group of noble youngsters began to chant. One could see the blood lust on their faces. Their chant riled up Lars as he began to attack Sextus more violently and frantically. The cracking sound of the whip became louder and louder. Sextus' body was painted with his own blood. His flesh and blood splattered across the hot sand. Since he blocked the whip with his hands, they suffered the most. One could even see the vague outline of the bloodied bone in his hand as the barbed whip peeled off the skin from his hands. Arr! Sextus screamed once again, but instead of dodging or blocking the whip, he let the barbed whip wrap around his rib cage. Lars was stunned to see Sextus from his guard. Soon he realized why he did that as Sextus grabbed the barbed whip tightly. The barbs on the whip penetrated Sextus' palm as blood oozed out of his hand. Nonetheless, Sextus didn't let go of the whip. He held onto it as tight as he could. Shit, Lars tried to pull the whip away from Sextus, yet he simply couldn't. Everyone misjudged Sextus' ability to endure pain. Just when they thought Sextus couldn't win against Lars, he used his wit to overcome Lars' agility. Inch by inch, Sextus moved towards Lars while holding onto the whip. He gritted his teeth in pain as his eyes turned bloodshot. Even his brown skin became paler due to the blood loss. How is he doing that? This is awesome. Look at all that blood. Lars is doomed. The nobles loved the blood and gore, unlike Gaia or Maxine. Gaia had no love for the human race, yet she hated seeing two humans fight to the death for the sake of the nobles' entertainment. In the other continents, cultivators often held competitions like this. However, those cultivators didn't fight for others' entertainment, rather they fought for rare resources, treasures, and gold coins. Plus, almost all those competitions had the option of surrendering. If one decided to surrender, there were no consequences except they would not get the said prize. Human, Are you sure we can't blow these assholes to hell? Gaia creased her brows in disgust looking at the nobles. Enough playing around, I'm out and Maxine is ready. Blow them up, she heard Michael's voice in her head. Meanwhile, Sextus had successfully come closer to Lars. He was just a meter away from Lars, who began to slightly shiver in fear. Pretty eyes, despite the pain, Sextus licked his lips with an evil grin on his face. His blood-covered teeth made his grin even eviler. Fuck dash, Lars cursed, realizing he would die a horrible death if he kept holding on to the whip. Therefore, he tried to let go. Where are you going? Sextus quickly grabbed Lars by his neck before Lars could step away from him. Kill. 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 Yet again nobles began to shout. This time it was Sextus who riled up because of the shout. Sextus let go of the whip before grabbing Lars by his neck using both of his bloodied hands. Let go. Lars wiggled frantically to escape Sextus' hold. Soon, Lars felt his feet getting higher and higher from the ground. Lifting Lars by his neck, Sextus quickly moved forward to lick Lars' cheek. He took his time licking Lars' face. Many noblewomen frowned as it was pretty disgusting to see Sextus licking Lars' face. Nonetheless, many nobles enjoyed this kind of freaky stuff. Who wants to see some eyes? Sextus shouted loudly. His voice reverberated the arena. Kill. 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 This time, almost all the nobles except the senators stood up from their seats in excitement. They threw their hands up, screaming at Sextus. Boom. Just when Sextus was about to gouge Lars' eyes out, the elevated stage where the senators were enjoying the fight exploded, producing an ear-piercing loud booming sound. A small mushroom cloud of fire appeared above the stage where they were sitting. The blast wave was so powerful that it even knocked down Lars and Sextus. The arena shook as pieces of marble stones crumbled down from the arena's walls. To the sound of the explosion came the terrible echo, as if it were the anguished cry of God. Oh my God. Few nobles were quick to react as they began to scream. We. Immediately someone activated the fire alarm that produced loud crying noises. Gladiators, Spartans as well as legionary soldiers came rushing through the gates and doorways to save the senators. In addition to fire that burned with red-hot flames, the dust cloud enveloped the nearby area of the stage. It prevented the nobles from seeing what's happening inside the flames. Inside the bomb site, Caius was lying on the ground sideways. His vision blurred while he could not hear anything but a high-pitched whistling sound. He could vaguely see a few figures lying in front of him. He couldn't make out the identities. In addition to the smoke and flame, he could see pieces of flesh and bones. Feeling the dizziness overcoming his senses, he tried not to close his eyes. Caius felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. He let out a sharp cry. In a few seconds, his brain realized the sensation of a hand on his shoulder. He tried to turn his head, yet the injuries prevented him from doing so. Take him to the doorway and make sure they find him first. Caius could barely hear the words. Swallow this. The next second, Caius felt a figure pushing a pill into his mouth. Although his vision was blurred, he could see the face of Maxine. The moment the pill touched his tongue, he felt a cool sensation all over his body. The pain started to become less while his vision slowly cleared up. Gaia stood among the wreckage searching for any survivors except Caius. After she had given the healing pill, Maxine dragged Caius towards the doorway. The two of them made sure the doorway was clear so the Spartans could find Caius quickly. Although the smoke hindered her eyesight, she could see no bodies moving. The explosion was more powerful than she initially expected. There were no intact dead bodies as she saw several limbs and body chunks lying around. At first, she thought she would feel pity for these people, but after seeing how they enjoyed the gladiator fight, she felt nothing. Save the senators. Move. While she was looking around for survivors, although it was highly unlikely someone would have survived the blast, she heard people rushing towards the wreckage. Dark Queen, it's done. Maxine came to her side. Despite the bruises and cuts made by the wooden splinters on her face, Maxine grinned. Her face was bright like she had completed something important. Is there any chance of Viridius to survive the explosion? Gaia heard Michael's voice sound in her head. She looked around before locking her gaze on a charcoaled body that had no legs attached. Nope, shame. Now get out of there before anyone sees you too. Wait for me in the Reaper. With a final look around the wreckage, Gaia put her hand on Maxina's shoulder. Using the smoke as a cover, she took off from the ground in lightning fast before disappearing into the clouds. Chapter 286. Onshore breezes climbed the mountain slopes until the air became cool enough to condense its vapor to rain. A lone banyan tree stood atop the mountain, casting its dark shadows on the muddy ground. The rain reacted with the earth, creating the scent of ground. Under the banyan tree stood several figures. One of those figures was Michael. The city of Krilta could be seen in the distance. His eyes were fixed on the smoke reaching the sky from the arena. "It's done," Michael said, turning back to see the fresh grave of Doctorus. The gladiators gather around the grave with their heads lowered. They paid their last respect to Doctorus in silence. Michael walked to the grave, kneeling on one knee in front of the grave. Regardless that he knew nothing about the man, he respected him because he deserved it. He started this rebellion against the nobles, he fought for freedom and died a free man. Michael paid his respect by grabbing a handful of soil and pouring it again onto the grave. It was a gesture of respect, also a sign of forgiveness for what he was about to do. The gladiators, including Tiberius, stared at him as Michael stood up. They all noticed the smoke, except they were not in the mood to rejoice. The loss of Doctorus was too overwhelming for them. They were ready to sacrifice themselves, yet they never imagined Doctorus would be murdered by one of them. "You know why he left you at the camp instead of taking you with us?" one of the gladiators asked. The sound of thunder rumbling, as well as the flashes of lightning, accompanied them along with Tiberius' silence. "He wanted you to lead the rebellion after him," the gladiator finished his thought. Tiberius just let out a hollow laugh. "Crazy bastard. Always managed to find things that I cannot agree with." Tiberius took his gaze away from the grave to the dark cloud-filled sky. He closed his eyes, letting rain droplets wash over his face. "I'm no leader. I never was and never will be. What we need is a leader who could do the impossible." Tiberius gave a long and hard thought about this. Although he only knew Lucifer for a short amount of time, he saw what Lucifer is capable of. For instance, he just killed every senator except one with no casualties on his side, where Doctorus' plan included them getting blown to pieces with the senators. "You know, before I met you, I met Doctorus." Tiberius' brows arched up while the four gladiators looked at him bewildered. "I made the same offer as I did to you. Follow me and I'll help you cleanse this continent." He was a warrior to the core. There was no fear in his eyes. The gladiators couldn't help smiling. He said, looking into my eyes, "He would rather die a free man than become a slave once again." "Sounds like him," Tiberius smiled. The fact Lucifer went to Doctorus before coming to him didn't surprise him the least. If he was in Lucifer's shoes, he would have done the same. After all, Doctorus was a far better warrior and a man than him. I respected his wish, but it's a pity that he put his trust in the wrong man. Now it's time for you four to make the choice for yourselves and the entire rebellion. Before they could give it a thought, Michael activated the runic teleportation to teleport back to his ship. The sudden flash of light made the gladiators close their eyes. When they opened them, they were standing on a ship. There was nothing but the ocean surrounding them. In the distance, they could see the familiar docks where they initially landed with Doctorus. "What just dash? Uwak." Uwak. Since this was their first teleportation experience, they immediately felt everything inside their stomach making a return trip towards their mouth. They rushed towards the ship's edge to throw up in the ocean. Tiberius tried to fight the vomiting sensation, yet after a few seconds, he too ran towards the edge. Michael or the crew members were nowhere to be found on the upper deck. He wanted the gladiators to discuss in private. A few minutes passed by before they finally moved their heads away from the ocean. Including Tiberius, they drew a few deep breaths. "How did he dash?" "No idea," Tiberius answered before even the gladiator could finish his question. "But that's another reason we should follow him," Tiberius said, looking at the four of them. They seemed reluctant. While they were staring at Tiberius to continue, he retrieved a small pouch and a parchment from the side pocket of his black breeches. Tiberius tossed the parchment at one gladiator while the pouch at another gladiator. Most of the gladiators were soldiers before becoming a gladiator, so they had basic training in reading and writing. The gladiator who opened the pouch raised his brows as his mouth opened wide. "Is this for real?" The same startled expression could be seen on the gladiator's face who just read the parchment. It is, and what's in the pouch is only 10% of what he's paying me. The gladiators were dumbstruck, because they could tell that there were at least 100 gold coins in the pouch. Even a Spartan soldier wouldn't receive 100 gold coins per month, let alone a gladiator. Also, it wasn't 100 gold coins but 1,000 gold coins per month according to Tiberius. They certainly couldn't believe him. I know it's hard to believe, but this is real. Fuck that money for a moment. I'm not asking you to trust him. I'm asking you to trust me. He don't fucking need us if we want to avenge Doctorus and make his dream come true. We need him. Tiberius paused for a moment before continuing. Look, you saw what he's capable of. He just killed the senators of Gisel without a single casualty while you dumbass went on with a suicide plan. The gladiators had a mix of emotions emerging on their faces. They were shocked to hear that Lucifer killed the senators without a loss while feeling slightly ashamed of their suicide plan. Don't make the same mistake Doctorus made. We need him. He's gonna change this place with or without us. I've already made my decision to follow him. It's time you made yours. I'll give you 10 minutes to decide, as he said. He turned back to walk towards the captain's cabin where Tiberius hoped to meet Michael. After taking a few steps, he stopped. And keep the gold for old time's sake. Michael was currently sitting on his throne behind the oak table as Gaia rested on the sofa comfortably. On the table, the map of the southern continent could be seen. A jade dagger was striking into the map, where Gisel is located. The dagger was an indicator that Gisel is in his control. Behind the skull mask he was smiling. He left a spider with the gladiators. Through the spider, he could hear everything they were talking from his throne. Recruiting Tiberius proved to be a good move, as what he said to the gladiators made them change their minds. Of course, they wouldn't completely trust him. It was expected of them. He didn't want them to trust him. He wanted them to trust Tiberius. Thank you, Doctorus. He thanked Doctorus in his mind for giving him an army. Everything he told the gladiators about him meeting Doctorus and offering him a deal was nothing but lies. He had neither met nor talked with Doctorus. He just used Doctorus' death to his advantage. His lies put a seed of doubt in the gladiators' minds. They would have certainly wondered whether Doctorus would be alive if he decided to follow Lucifer. Because of his lies, it was highly likely that the gladiators would choose to follow him, wanting to avoid the mistake of Doctorus. Knock. Knock. Come. The door opened after Michael's word. Tiberius entered the cabin door. What have they decided? Like he heard nothing, Michael asked Tiberius. Unless they have shit for the brain, they will agree to follow you. Good. Maxine will arrange passage for your people to reach Gisel from the Grey Mountains safely. At the time they reach Gisel, Caius would have announced that he's abolishing slavery in Gisel. If you want, you can wait till he announces it and bring your people in small groups. Tiberius was speechless. The rebels had to pay in blood to keep the nobles at bay and run the rebellion, yet in a couple of days, Lucifer managed to do what they couldn't do for 3 years. He knew Lucifer's plan. Even so, seeing it getting executed without a problem stunned him completely. He only wished Doctorus should have been here to see the rebellion finally moving forward towards the goal. Can we really trust Caius? He's noble to the core. What if he changes his mind? Well, kill him. Gaia waved him off casually. I made sure he doesn't do such a thing. You focus on getting your people settled on. Caius will give you a piece of land and resources to build a village. After he reforms the Senate to my liking, the village will receive further support to become much more. I gave them the freedom they were fighting for. From now on, their fate is in their hand. With conquering Gisel, he finished everything he intended to in the southern continent for the time being. He knew the Hydra would become a godlike existence in the future beside Nightmare. In addition to the gladiator army, he had an undead army waiting for him outside the pyramid, his second base of operation. The whole undead island had become his domain. Soon after Caius forms a new senate, he would get a small fortune of gold coins regularly as another revenue for his future wars. It's time to go home, Michael said to himself. Chapter 287. What should I wear? Michael was rummaging through the system store to find new clothes to wear. Currently, he was wearing his Lucifer armor. When he returns to Elon, he knew he should wear new clothes instead of the usual Blade or Neo costume. How could a badass wear the same clothes every day? Instead of choosing a movie costume, Michael wanted to wear something suitable to this world, medieval-style clothing. With his buffed body, no matter what he wore, it would make him extremely good-looking. Plus, unlike before, he now sported a stubble beard to further his handsomeness. Before he departed to Elon, he only needed to cut his hair short as his raven black hair had grown past the shoulder length. In front of his eyes, there were varieties of clothes such as tunics, shirts, braids, metal chains, long coats and long sleeves. Show me all the long coats. Only black ones, right? Of course, the system filtered the long coats using Michael's parameters. Soon numerous black coats appeared before him. There were regular trench coats with fur collars, double-breasted trench coats, and a few other variations of long coats. After a few minutes of pondering, he ended up picking a black trench coat with no fur collars. The coat almost reached his feet. It had a mix of medieval and modern vibe to it. Do you want shirts and trousers to go along with the coat? Shit, I sound like a salesgirl in a clothing store. The system murmured as Michael chuckled. Nah, give me a turtleneck, trousers, and suede boots. Make them all black. Aren't you forgetting something? The dual sword sheath. Let me first get 2 new swords to my liking. Michael's 2 swords were degraded, losing most of their sharpness. Because Michael knew nothing about Jack's death, he was still planning to make Jack a blacksmith and forge 2 new swords. Everything will cost you 6,000 badass points. Do you wish to buy them all and store them in the system storage? Them all. Do you wish to buy the same set of clothing for Gaia? It'll cost you additional 1,000 badass points to remodel the clothing to fit her. She already has enough doubts. Getting new clothes out of nowhere is an unnecessary risk. For now, it'll take her to the best clothing store in Elon. After everything they went through, Michael wanted to take a long break to clear his mind. Going on a date with her seemed like a good idea to him. He worried less about the championship tournaments because he was extremely confident in his ability to win the tournament. Although he was at the core formation level 5, the first energy he absorbed from the Hydra egg upgraded his skills to the point his real strength reached level 9 of the core formation stage. To this moment, he was in the dark regarding the kills of Nightmare. It was because he was inside the void line when Nightmare killed all the bandits that he never received experience points. In addition to Nightmare, he also never received the experience of Arius kills. Eventually, Michael exited the system. He was still sitting on his throne. He was not alone. In front of him stood Gibson, Maxine, Tiberius, Heimberg, and Gaia remained by his side. I have tasks for each of you to finish while we're away, as he said. He turned his gaze towards Gibson. You said the seas out here are plagued with rogue pirates. I want you to hunt them down. Offer them the choice to join our ranks. If they refused, kill them all but try not to damage their ship too much. His plan was to become a pirate lord. To become one ship was not enough. He needed a fleet of ships. Rather than building or buying new ships and crews for a new fleet, he planned to make the rogue pirates join his ranks by force. Use this to repair the Reaper and resupply the cannons. Michael pointed at the small chest on the corner of the table. It contained a chunk of wealth he obtained from Lar's ship when he first reached the southern continent. As you wish, Lord Lucifer. Gibson showed no hesitation in his face. The Silent Reaper was a legendary ship that overpowers most of the pirate ships in a one-on-one battle. To give a fair fight to the Reaper, it would take several man-o'-wars or the Pirate Lord ships. Next, Michael looked at Maxine. Travel to the Grey Mountains with Tiberius. Make sure his people reach Gisel safely. Consider it done, Lord Lucifer. She bowed her head as Michael turned his gaze at Heimberg. Gaia just brought Heimberg from Gisel with the help of a teleportation scroll. His previous task was to monitor Caius while he was in the infirmary getting treated for the wounds he suffered in the explosion. It was highly likely that the nearby kingdom might try to use the Gisel's temporary crisis to their own advantage by sending assassins after Caius. I need you to conduct a background check on everyone in Caius' list for the Senate. Put a file on every single one. After that, find the gladiator named Mark. The mere mention of the name Mark made Tiberius' veins pop out in fury. He didn't need any proof to know that it was Mark who killed Doctorus. Initially, he wanted to hunt down Mark himself, but he was talked out of the plan by Lucifer. He needed to be at the Grey Mountains more than on the hunt to Mark. As you wish, Lord Lucifer. Michael felt proud looking at his subordinates. When he first came to this world, he had nothing. Almost a year later, he managed to put a strong foundation to dominate this entire world in the future. He could imagine the people in this room becoming his generals, powerful generals. His enemies would have to face them before even coming to meet Gaia and him. They would be like the top-level bosses. And put these in your ear. Michael flicked his wrist as tiny earbuds appeared on the table. The earbuds slowly began to float towards each of them except Heimberg, as he already had an earbud to communicate with Gaia and Michael. Always keep them in your ear. Who knows, one day it might save your lives. Gaia snickers evilly to mess with them. All of them knew she has a weird sense of humor. You can all go eventually, after everyone left the room. Only Gaia, Michael and Hydra remained in the room. He stood in front of a mirror with a hair clipper that was powered by arch energy. He spent almost an hour in front of the mirror, cutting his hair to perfection. This was the first time he cut his hair since he came to this world. "Ow, I like your long hair," she pouted while sitting on the sofa. The Hydra was still asleep after a hearty meal. Currently, 2 tiny wings were sticking out of its back. The wings indicated that the Hydra would be able to fly in the future. He couldn't help wondering how big the Hydra would grow. "I like changing my looks often. Don't you want to try new looks?" While clipping his long hair, he asked her. Perfection doesn't need alteration. There was an immense amount of pride could be seen on her face. He knew she was right. She was perfect in every way. Among all the women he saw, only Layla could match Gaia in terms of beauty. Thinking about Layla, he wondered what she's doing. He wished not to see her again in his life, even though he knew the odds for that are low. "What about your mouth? It's far from being perfect." Michael teased her, expecting her to get mad. Making her mad was one of his hobbies. Fuck yourself, human. She was used to getting teased by Michael. Her lack of anger made teasing a bit dull. In a few minutes, he shortened his hair and shaped his beard to perfection. "How am I looking?" Michael asked. She stared at him from top to bottom before leaving the sofa to come to him. She put the Hydra on the table. To Michael's surprise, she locked her lips with his while running her fingers through Michael's hair. They savored each other's lips for several minutes before parting from each other. "Shall we go home?" she asked, licking her lips with an alluring smile on her face. "Yes, we shall." The both of them yet again put the masks on to hide their faces. After she gently took the Hydra from the table, Michael closed his eyes, willing the system to activate the runic teleportation. The warm feeling of teleportation rays enveloped them. Either of them couldn't wait to return to the sect. After 4 months, Michael could open the restaurant. He hoped the winter had passed. More than everything, Michael wanted to unlock the demon soul from the stone. Before departing to the southern continent, the system said that the stone needs at least 2 months to stabilize before opening it. It had been 2 months since he came to the southern continent, hence Michael knew it's time to let out the demon and take another powerful subordinate. After several seconds, Michael opened his eyes to see the familiar dark walls, sofa and large bed. Finally, he had returned to the Abyssal. Chapter 288. His room in the Abyssal looked the same as left it before going to the southern continent. He could feel the arch energy in the surrounding air. Compared to the air in the southern continent, the air here felt thicker and clean. If he hadn't gone to the southern continent, he wouldn't have felt the difference. "Oh baby, I missed you so much." Gaia leaped onto the bed. She landed back first on the bed while keeping the Hydra closer to her chest. Her ample chest cushioned the force produced by the bed's spring from hurting the tiny Hydra. Aha! Each head of the Hydra opened its eyes, yawning. It only took the Hydra a couple of seconds to feel the change in the surroundings. "Where are we?" The white head and the silver head curiously looked around the room. The black head, however, closed its eyes to sense the arch energy in the air. Just as they were scanning their surroundings, the Hydra began to glow from within. On the left side of the Hydra was white, the middle was silver while the right side was black to match the colors of the 3 heads. At that moment, all of its body gradually turned golden. The fuck is happening to them? Gaia quickly sat up from the bed when she saw the Hydra glowing. She swooped the Hydra into her hand to feel its body getting warmer and warmer. They are reaching the foundation stage. Michael could see the arch energy fluctuations around the Hydra. The ripple of energy was violent. meaning that the Hydra would soon reach the foundation stage from its current stage. No, they aren't, Gaia frowned because she couldn't see any energy fluctuations around the Hydra. Can't you see the energy fluctuations around them? Michael walked towards the bed. He then sat beside Gaia looking at the Hydra. I see no shit. She looked closer yet saw nothing. Usually one could see the arch energy fluctuations around them. That was how they sensed someone's cultivation level. When the grown Hydra screamed, it messed up the arch energy radiation all over the world. Because of that, one no longer had the ability to sense another's cultivation level. Weird, come with me, Michael stroked his chin. He began to doubt whether it's because of the demon soul in the pocket dimension attached to his room. Before departing to the southern continent, he placed the demon stone in the pocket dimension. Therefore, he stood up walking towards it. All the three heads had their eyes closed. She gently picked up the Hydra in her hand as she followed Michael behind. Reaching the black door, Michael placed his hand. He felt his hand slightly getting warmer. With a clicking noise, the door slowly opened to reveal the inside. He still had a hard time believing the scenery before him was another dimension. The beautiful water wall flowed from the miniature hill's top, forming a small lake that glistened in the sunlight peeking through the mountain cracks. Above the small pond, the demon stone was hovering. The closer he walked towards it, the louder he heard the humming sound coming from the stone. The demon stone has stabilized. You can release the soul within the stone. Because of the eyes of darkness, he could see the overwhelming energy around the stone. It wasn't just arch energy, the stone was radiating celestial and first energy. Can you see the energy fluctuations around the stone? No, she shook her head. Thinking why she couldn't see the energy around the stone, he moved closer to the stone. He reached his hand out at the stone standing on the lake's edge. The chilling water washed over his feet as the stone slowly hovered towards him. Careful, she clenched his arm tightly for a moment. Stay behind me, Michael asked. Finally, she let go of his hand. While the stone was hovering just an arm's reach away from him, she moved behind him. Time for another subordinate. Michael was excited to release the demon soul. With a flick of his wrist, he willed the stone to move closer. An invisible force kept pushing Michael's hand away, yet it couldn't stop him completely. Gritting his teeth, Michael used all of his strength to break this invisible barrier. His arm muscles flexed up while a web of veins emerged to upper skin. With a final push, Michael grabbed the stone. The moment he touched the stone, it produced a sound like pouring water onto a hot pan. His mind went blank completely as in a few seconds, he was floating in an empty space. As far as his eyes could see, there was nothing. It was just a red empty space. System, he called out the system, hoping to get some answers from it. However, before he could hear the system, a bright light appeared in front of him out of nowhere. The bright light began to rotate faster and faster. In a few seconds, it grew brighter to the point Michael tried to close his eyes. The light was bright as a small sun. The demon soul has been released. You have to pay the system 40,000 badass points to subdue and make the demon your subordinate. At first, whenever the system named a high price, he would become mad or at least annoyed. However, he learned that the higher the system's price for something, the more valuable and powerful it would be. The sheer amount of 40,000 badass points made his blood boil. Despite his blood-boiling excitement, he had a question in his mind. Didn't I pay you 15,000 badass points to bring back the demon to life? Just as he said, he paid the system 15,000 badass points at the annual auction when he first bought the stone. He wondered why the system suddenly asked for another 40,000 badass points. 15,000 badass points to bring the demon soul back to life from a long slumber. This 40,000 badass points for making the demon 100% loyal to you. Try to imagine what would happen if you wake a demon that's not loyal to you. Also, what now? When he heard the system drag its voice, he realized it's gonna ask for more badass points. He sighed inside. Currently, he had 70,000 badass points to spend. Initially, he planned to buy some new legendary level spells or upgrade the existing ones before the tournament. Now it seemed like he just had to go without any new spells. If you throw me another 6,000 points, the system can shape the demon soul to your liking. Of course, the demon will be in its ethereal form. To make the demon take a physical form, you need to either upgrade the system and buy a body for the demon, or find a suitable host in this world. Ethereal for Ha. Will it affect the demon's power? Although Michael didn't have any idea about a demon or its powers, he first needed to make sure whether the ethereal form affects the demon in any way before spending 46,000 points. It doesn't affect the demon's power until it reaches the soul refining stage. After the soul refining stage, if you don't give the demon a physical body, its cultivation progress will stop. Also, the demon will be several times powerful when it's in a physical form. Don't tell me the demon will be at the arch sensing stage after I spend 46,000 points? Explain how the demon levels up. Also, I have another question. Since the Hydra and the demon are extraterrestrial species, why are they using this world's cultivation level and energy native to this world instead of harnessing other more powerful energies? As I recall, you said the arch energy is the least powerful energy in the universe. No, the demon will be at core formation level because the demon has lost its power with time, ending up at core formation level. The answer to your next question is survival. To survive in this world, no matter the origin of the species, they need to adapt to this world. Hence, their souls will use what's abundant in this world, that is arch energy. The higher they go in the cultivation ladder, their souls and bodies could harness more powerful energies. How long the demon soul is in the slumber state? The system level is currently too low to give you an exact time. Just lowball it. At least for 2 million years, Michael was stunned beyond words. Even after losing its power gradually for 2 million years, the demon would be woken at the core formation stage. He couldn't even imagine how powerful it was before entering the slumber state. Alright, take the 46,000 points. I have something special in mind for my demon. Just imagine how the demon should look like and the system will take care of the rest. In a blink of an eye, the badass points amount dropped from 70,000 to 24,000. The very next moment, the empty red space faded away as he was standing at the lake's edge. He quickly closed his eyes, imagining how the demon should look like. He already had an image in his mind, a butler. He was imagining a black suit-wearing butler in his late teens or early 30s. Despite the butler's ethereal form, he wanted the butler to look like a male with blue eyes, shoulder-length black hair, not completely but somewhat resembling the butler character in Black Butler. Chapter 289. 3 days before Michael returned to Elon continent from the southern continent. It was the same day Noah met Layla to give the Witcher Stone. Lady Alden, you can open your eyes. The Witcher Stone is yours. Noah ended his drama after the Supreme Guardian located the energy source. Layla looked at the red ruby on her palm. She could feel the immense power radiating from within. It was not arch energy, it was pure celestial energy. According to her mentor, there were only 3 Witcher stones in the world. She closed her palm as a bright light appeared from her space ring enveloped the stone. The stone then disappeared along with the light. There's no way of finding what's inside her body, at least not yet. The Supreme Guardian talked to Noah telepathically. Do you think we should ask her for something that could help Andrew win the tournament? Noah thought. No harm in asking. Who knows, she might have something. Andrews was Noah's cousin who was saved by Michael. Although Noah and Andrews were cousins, they were more like brothers than cousins. Noah would do anything for his cousin. In all the years Noah knew Andres, he never asked for Noah's help until 2 weeks ago. You can take the talisman and leave, Layla coldly said. Lady Layden, can I ask something else? Initially, Noah planned to brew a secret potion that would have helped him if he didn't see Ghost's name on the tournament competitors list. Among all his peers, only Ghost seemed to have the ability to beat him. Although Noah hated the fact that he's pretty selfish, Ghost did save his family. If not for him, Noah would have lost his mother, sister, and Andrews. Still, he needed to help Andrews defeat Ghost, and everyone stands in the way to win the main championship tournament. Peyton was betting on Selena and Alex to win the tournament, but deep down, Noah knew it was Ghost who had the most chance to win it. What? I want something that temporarily makes a body-strengthening cultivator a core formation stage cultivator in return for the Witcher Stone. Narita and Johanna stared at Layla's face. The way she looked at Noah was cold, yet she didn't say no to his request right out of the bat. His request might have been impossible to others, but she did know a musical note that would transfer some of her power to the target. If she used the note targeting whoever Noah wanted to reach the core formation stage, he or she would temporarily become one. The only downside was she needed to be in close proximity to the target. I assume you're asking for someone else, Layla asked. Noah was not going to hide the truth. The tournament committee only approved the use of the healing potion. Using anything else to gain an advantage over the competitors was considered a violation, and the violator would be punished severely. Andrew's my cousin. He must win the Elon Championship tournament. You're asking the mistress to help your cousin cheat. Narita lost her cool. Her hands tightly grabbed the Vina. She seemed like she would start to attack Noah any second. Noah wasn't afraid of them. He was sure that Layla wouldn't let her disciples attack the man who just delivered something extremely rare and valuable to her. Layla raised her hand as Narita quickly shut her mouth. Is that what you really want? Noah sighed when he heard Layla's question. In truth, Andrews wasn't a warrior but a ringmaster. Unlike him, Andrews had no combat training or experience. If Andrews wanted just to compete, Noah might have let him as it would help him get some battle experience. However, Andrews asked Noah to help him win the tournament. Noah tried his best to talk him out of the idea until he heard Andrews' reason behind his decision to compete and win the tournament. Love makes one do crazy things, Lady Alden. Andrews always had my back ever since we were little. It's time for me to return the favor. It's okay if you don't want to help me, Dash. I'm not helping you, I'm just settling a debt. Go tell your cousin to be prepared. He'll be at core formation when the competition starts, she interrupted Noah before he could finish his thought. Noah was stunned for a couple of seconds. There was no concern in her eyes about the tournament committee. Thank you, Lady Alden. 3 days before Noah ventured searching for the Witcher Stone, he was roaming the garden with his mother at Penn Town. Alicia was on the other side of the garden with Sabrina. She was training Sabrina for the championship tournament for those under the core formation level. The Golden Babaru followed Samuel the butler into the kitchen to snack on the food. Therefore, Noah was alone with his mother. Where's Dad? Noah asked Diana. He went to the Sunrise sect to buy potions for our soldiers. Noah frowned. What happened to the potions in our warehouse? All the potions in their warehouse were brewed by Noah himself. The Winston family handed out the potions for free. If anyone needed a healing potion in Penn Town, they could ask in any one of Winston's family warehouses. Noah disliked the idea of selling potions such as healing potions for money, unlike Michael. They are gone 2 weeks ago. You were nowhere to be found to brew more, so your dad decided to buy some in case of emergency, Diana said with a gentle smile. She hid her lie behind the smile. On contrary to what she said, there were still a few crates of healing potions in their warehouses, but the reason for Ethan's visit was he wanted to see whether Ghost has come out of seclusion yet. Ever since Ethan heard about Jack's murder, he put secret guards around the sect to make sure no one will hurt Ghost, his son. It was Ethan's way of showing his love for Ghost. Diana was unable to stop him from visiting the sect as Ethan blamed himself for everything that happened to Diana and Ghost. Noah couldn't see through his mother's lies because she had never lied to him before in his life. Besides, what she said made sense to him. Occasionally Diana stopped to tend to the flower plants on the side of the path they were walking. While she was tending to one of the roses, a maid came running to Diana. Lady Diana, the dress you ordered has arrived. The maid took deep breaths after running to Diana. Hearing the maid, Noah was surprised. He looked at his mother with his brows arched up. Mother, you ordered a new dress. Ever since Noah was little, he never saw his mother order new dresses or care for things such as jewelry, fancy clothes, unlike other noble ladies. She rarely visited clothing stores. They had to force her to make her come with them. Yet, right at the moment, her face lightened up hearing the maid. I can't go to the tournaments looking dull. She dusted the mud on her hand before walking towards the maid. Really? What have you done to my mother, woman? Noah chuckled as Diana twisted his ear for making fun of her. She was in a good mood. Does Sabi know you're going to the tournament? Noah thought the reason for his mother's sudden interest in new clothes was Sabrina. Since it was Sabrina's first major tournament, Noah was thinking Diana bought new clothes for the occasion. Although Diana was happy to see her daughter compete in the tournament, she was more excited to see her son. She was thankful to the Guardian Guild for preventing the Guardians from competing. She knew she couldn't even imagine her two sons fighting each other. It's a surprise. Your father and aunts are also coming to see the tournament. Other than Ethan, only Imelda, her elder sister, knew about Ghost's identity. Just like her, Imelda was also extremely excited to see her nephew in action. Not only Imelda, but even Sabrina was looking forward to seeing Ghost again. You're coming with us, Noah, Diana firmly said. You know I like to spend time with you guys, so yes, I'm coming, Noah said as he saw Samuel walking towards him from the manor. Young Master Andres is waiting for you at the apple tree. Huh? Did he say why? No, young master, but young Master Andres seemed odd, and also, there's a person with him. Noah frowned hearing Samuel. A person, you say? That person was wearing a hood and cloak, young master. Young Master Andrews said not to ask the person's identity and wanted to meet you immediately. The person with him? Is he at the East Side Garden also? Diana creased her brows. Her smile gradually disappeared from her face. Yes, Lady Alden. Young Master Andrews must have a good reason to bring him there. The tree was in the East Side Garden. No one except the core members of their family was allowed to enter the East Side Garden. Noah couldn't help wondering why Andrews brought a stranger to the garden without telling anyone else. Go. Yet if Andrews was asking for Noah, she knew it must be something important. Therefore, she didn't keep Noah with her as she sent him to meet Andrews. Her instincts told her that Andrews is in some kind of trouble, but she trusted Noah to deal with whatever trouble Andrews was in. After bowing his head towards his mother, Noah made his way to the apple tree. Chapter 290. Andrews was standing under the apple tree overlooking the small pond. The lake was at the garden's center with countless herbs, trees, and flower plants surrounding it. The air was pungent with the fragrance of jasmine. The lake was no natural basin filled with meltwater, but a luxury addition to the garden built by Ethan's grandfather. The lake was filled with colorful fishes such as the Japanese koi carp and goldfish. They were huge and numerous, each about as long as an adult arm. He gazed across the wind-roughed surface to the lily pads in bloom, their white or magenta petals catching the breeze. He inhaled slowly. Peace. His little piece of heaven in the Winston family manor. While an unsettling look in his eyes, he gently grabbed an apple above him. Under the sunrise, the apples glowed rosier than they do in the day's shine. The branches spread out as if so proud of the bounty they brought and sweetness given within each one. It was a party of colors, a perfect marriage of reds and greens, in blushes of baby pinks and dappled hues of chaos and order. It was a beauty that sprung from simple seeds blessed with mud and rain. On normal days, this tree and the scenery around him used to calm his mind. He learned most of his runes sitting under the apple tree. However, at this moment, even the tree or the scenery couldn't even slightly calm his nerves. The hooded person was standing beside him staring at the beautiful glistening lake. The person was about Andrew's shoulder height. Andrews, the hooded person, spoke with a sweet feminine voice. Contrary to what Samuel was thinking, the hooded person was not a he but a she. The girl concealed all her feminine features with the oversized hood and cloak. What are we gonna do? The girl asked. Her voice overflowed with worry and concern. Andrews gently patted her hand on his shoulder. He tried to hide his anxiety with a smile. One thing for sure, you cannot disobey your father. My family has enough problems as it is. We can't add another one to the list. Let's hope Noah can help us, said Andrews. Because there were no guards inside the garden. The girl rested her head on Andrew's shoulder after he spoke. While they were drowned in their own train of thoughts, Noah entered the garden through the archway. They failed to hear his footsteps as they were too concerned about the upcoming championship tournament. A sliver of surprise could be seen in Noah's eyes when he saw the two of them. It was evident that the other person was a she as they both looked like couples in a park. Noah never thought Andrews had a girlfriend. He couldn't help wondering why Andrews chose not to tell him or anyone in the family. Andrews, hearing Noah's voice, Andrews' body jerked as the girl immediately lifted her head from his shoulder. They turned back to see Noah looking at them with a frown on his face. Noah. Andrews swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Gradually sweat drops started to form on his forehead, thinking how he's gonna ask Noah's help. Who is that? Noah asked as the girl lifted her hood to show herself. The moment Noah saw her face, he was stunned. For a few seconds, Noah was speechless. Princess Catherine, the girl in front of him, was the princess of Kingdom Bradia. Noah's stomach churned seeing the princess in their garden with no royal guards around her. The girl had a long face, a small nose, and small lips. Her hazel eyes were narrow with thin eyebrows. The golden silky hair was fluttering in the wind. There were no flaws in her beauty. Every inch of her body was perfect, like it was sculpted by the gods themselves. Guardian Noah. The princess curtsied, showing her respect towards Noah. If this was any other day and different circumstances, Noah would have shown proper etiquette by kissing her hand. Princess, what are you doing here? Where are the royal guards? Noah asked, looking around once again. They are in love. Noah suddenly heard his teacher's voice in his head. The Supreme Guardian chuckled. Noah, I don't know how to tell you. Andrew's voice trailed off as he couldn't get himself to finish his sentence. He knew just by being here with no royal guards, Catherine has endangered herself. If the king found out that she left the castle with no one knowing to meet her secret lover, not only the princess but also the Winston family would be punished. We are in love, Catherine bluntly said. Her voice was clear with no hesitation. Does Aunt know about this, Andrews? After a few moments of silence, Noah asked. Andrews slowly shook his head as Noah looked at Catherine. I assume the king also have no idea about any of this. She remained silent. Thought so, Noah sighed. Just hear us out, Noah. Andrews knew he had to tell Noah everything before he asked his help. With a long sigh, Noah nodded. He knew he had to hear Andrews out before making up his mind about what to do with the situation. Besides, he wondered why Andrews chose this moment to reveal his love. If Andrews was in love with the princess, he could have asked his father, and asked the king of her hand. Instead of doing that, they decided to meet in secret. For another 15 to 20 minutes, both of them explained from where they met first to how they ended up here. Apparently, they had met at the annual Rune Masters gathering, and this was not the prince's first time leaving the castle without her guards. She attended the gathering in disguise. According to both of them, it was love at first sight. Noah wasn't surprised by that, because Andrews was a talented ringmaster, as well as good-looking. It was understandable that the princess fell in love with him. After their initial meeting, they used to meet often without both families noticing. While Andrews was infected with starpox, she went to Azair searching for a cure. Noah was really moved when she said she would have taken her own life if Andrews had died. She said she would rather die than marry another man in her life. When Noah asked why didn't Andrews ask his father to go to Bredia and ask for her hand, Noah received a surprising answer. Although the Winston family was prestigious enough to ask the princess for her hand in marriage, King Bredia was adamant about marrying the princess to a warrior who could protect his daughter. The princess said that her aunt, King Bredia's little sister, was assassinated by the Grim Reapers in front of her husband, who happened to be a ringmaster. King Bredia blamed his brother-in-law for his sister's assassination. In King Bredia's eyes, it was because he was weak and had no combat skill that he failed to save his wife. Since that day, the king promised himself that he would never marry his daughter to a ringmaster, or anyone without the skills to fight and save his daughter if her life was in danger. So you're telling me the king has planned to marry you to the winner of the main championship tournament? Now Noah realized why they revealed themselves as lovers to him. Noah hated to admit it, but he knew there's no way in hell that Andrews could win the tournament for body-strengthening cultivators, let alone the tournament of the core formation cultivators. Even Noah hadn't reached the core formation stage yet. He was still at body-strengthening stage level 10, and it would take him another couple of weeks of cultivation to reach the core formation stage. My father is willing to offer the Bradford barony to the winner, so the winner would become a baron before marrying me. Court politics, Andrews sighed. Andrews must win this tournament, Master Noah. My father will give my hand to the winner the same day they announce the winner. I'd brother die than give my hand to another man, not in this life, as she said. She flicked her wrist. A small vial of green liquid appeared in her hand. Noah could smell the pungent smell coming from the vial. Poison. Noah recognized the liquid with a single glance. If Andrews don't win this, I will drink this and die. Tears started to roll out of her beautiful eyes. And I will follow you to the afterlife, Kathy. Yet again, Noah was stunned by their words. He couldn't even imagine his loving aunt losing her son. The loss of Andrews would devastate the family, and Noah would never let anything happen to his family. Andrews was like a brother to him, so how could he let him die? A sliver of resolve emerged in Noah's eyes. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but the tournament has been postponed a week from the set date. The committee will announce the news at the end of this week. This gives us exactly 2 weeks to come up with a plan. Postponed, why? Andrews asked. Although this did not solve their problem, seeing Noah agree to help them gave Andrews some strength. The scholars are still working on the device to determine one's cultivation level. It must be God's blessing that the tournament has postponed. Catherine wiped off the tears as a sliver of smile filled with hope emerged on her face. Master Noah please call me Noah Princess. We are going to be family. Noah placed his hand on Andrew's shoulder. This was his way of showing his support. Noah's smile filled both of them with confidence and hope. Noah, this might help us. With another flick of her wrist, a parchment appeared in her hand. Noah noticed the symbol of Vina on the mark. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.